Are you getting yourself ready for our show?
Guys, here we are. It's another Tuesday, Jigs and Bigs. We've got good stuff for you this week. We're starting out with some timely stuff that we got to get over, specifically about the Three Bells trifecta. We got some news about that, info you're going to want to know for sure. Following trailer parking rules, especially like this. I got all fired up about this week. I had a couple of yak sends this week. We'll go over all that stuff. Sean, of course, is doing some scouting, and there was a tournament. Of course, there's a tournament. Of course, it was a weekend. What do we have? Just the tip. We're talking all about backing line. Why and how, and some tips on how to make it all work for you. In FTG, we have a late breaker for you guys that you're going to want to hear from a local tournament recently. We'll get to those details later, but we also have stuff about local laws and YouTube and how it could bite you in the ass. More good stuff coming up with you. We're going to wrap up this week's show with some very timely nerd stuff for you. You're not going to want to miss it. Go ahead, grab yourself a cup of coffee, something delicious to enjoy, guys. We got much more good show coming up for you in just a bit. Jigs and Bigs. It's Tuesday. Get ready. Come on. It's another beautiful Sunday evening as we record this. Sean, how are you today?
I am good. I am sunburnt. I am happy to be back to normalcy where we're recording from the comfort of our own dungeon and attic, I guess is the proper terms.
Yep.
It's been a few weeks.
It has been a bit. It's been a little while. It's kind of nice to be back in this old kitchen chair. With some old disco lights behind me and going over some stuff. Man, I'll tell you what, though, I kind of already miss Crumpton. I kind of do.
We should follow up a little bit on what happened. It is medical stuff. Should we not talk about the medical stuff?
We can talk about some of it because we kind of mentioned it unknowing during the show. So if you guys remember last week during the intro of the show, if maybe you haven't even heard it, maybe it just totally went over your mind. There was a point in the intro for the show where I stopped and I was actually taken aback. And like when we record this, like the jig heads, they see us do this sloppy shit every single week. They know what kind of a shit show it is. But when I do the intro, I as I was in the middle of reading, or as I had started it, Cody had just up and walked away. And I was like, okay, there goes our guest. Great.
Yeah.
Cody walks away, and I was like, I kind of had an idea of what was going on, so I referenced it in the intro. I was like, yeah, I kind of think Cody had to take a shit because we were talking about it before we hit record, but, no bathroom breaks were made or anything like that, so we're going with it. And then he comes back and sits down, but it was like ridiculously quickly that he came back. I was like, you're efficient, man. Good for you. Good. You get some fiber, don't you? And it turns out that, unfortunately, Cody didn't have to take shit. Cody had to pass a series of kidney stones, which is ridiculously painful. I fear ever having to go through that in my life. Absolutely.
Yep.
It's not something I have some friends and family members that I know that have had to deal with them in the past, and it is not something I wish on anybody. It sucks. So Cody was, it was so bad that he was in the hospital for a bit, which sucks, but he's back out. Of course, you can't keep the vanilla gorilla caged up like that too much longer. So he's back. He says he's got some more. He says he's in total, I think there were 8. At minimum. Yeah.
That went through before he checked himself out. God knows how many are left, and I just
Yeah. Is he just kicking them out now where it's like ding ding?
I don't know. I don't want to know.
Yeah.
It's awful.
So Yeah, exactly. Lauren chimes in. She says, "Oh man, men peeing watermelons, pretty much. Except they're watermelons that have like railroad spikes in them." Yeah.
Well, I guess we're going to start the show by double vomiting today. That's how.
So yeah, we have that going on, but also trifecta news. Going in from kidney stones to trifecta news. You got to love this. But this is timely, so we want to make sure that we mention it early in the show so everybody kind of knows what's going on. Sean, why don't you go ahead and go through all the details? What's happening?
Well, I'm going to tell you, and thankfully in our patron group here, our Patreons, Lauren's in there tonight, so she's gonna be typing just in case I screw something up. But I'm going to keep this simple. Unfortunately, this year, Three Bells had to cancel the trifecta due to lack of sponsor participation and low number of angler participation as of the time of the cancellation. Now, I know there's a few people that sign up late. I'm notorious for signing up late to shit, but they had kind of counted myself and a couple other people in, and it still wasn't going to add up. So, unfortunately, the trifecta is canceled. Now, where that affects a lot of anglers is people make reservations for campgrounds and I'm guessing hotels or cottages in the nearby area during that weekend. And Three Bells is still going to put on an event that it's just going to be really informal. Pictures of fish. There's going to be some swag involved. Don't worry about measuring. There were rules, obviously, in the trifecta against live bait, which, sidebar, caused a lot of anglers a lot of problems where they wanted to use live and dead eels. And apparently there were several times over, I've heard the phrase, "I can't catch stripers otherwise," was uttered. Well, take up bowling. So Three Bells, if you did register for the event, they are refunding the money, and they will be getting everyone lunch who registered prior. If you did not register prior and you're going to be part of the event anyways, $15 for lunch. Okay?
There you go.
Now I'm going to wait for Lauren to correct me on any of that.
There could be some. I think you kind of nailed everything. It makes a lot of sense. So that's good that there is an event that's happening. That's good. That's definitely a good thing.
So we're still heading down. I know most of the Three Bells regional team that was going to be involved in this, we're all still heading down. And it's just going to be nice little mini vacation weekend where we get to do a lot of fishing and hang out. And I'm sure there's going to be some plotting and planning on our end for stuff for next year. I mean, I don't know. Did you see, speaking of just plotting and planning, did you see that the dates came out for the, for the derailed comment? Did you see the dates came out for the Springfield Sportsman Show?
No, I didn't.
I believe it was the 23rd and 24th of February. Let me check.
And you know what's funny? I made a note that this week I need to reach out to Doug about the show because I would like to establish what we're going to be doing over there. I also have some ideas. Like, man, I'll tell you what, dude, this trip going to Maryland and actually doing this whole thing, it has been it's really kind of been eye-opening for me. Like, it's already kind of given me some insight as to what I think I want to make my 2023 goals, and I want to get a little bit of a head start early, and that's the travel element to all this. Like, I think that is absolutely fantastic, and I'm trying to work out a way to create these little short trips where we can... obviously, I know, like, with your tournament schedule and stuff, that might limit it, but it doesn't mean that you're not going to be a part of the recording, obviously, because, we have access to the internet, so we could do this. But I would love to see at least myself, if not, you as well, and some other folks, too, jump in and go to a spot, a destination with a guest for that show. And they play host. We go out, we fish, we kind of do a little bit of, the touristy side of stuff. We eat some of the local food and, get kind of dive into the whole thing for like a day or two, and then record something that's really like absolute, like amazing, like a really, really good solid show, and just kind of bring that all over the place. I'd like to try to do that if I could 3 to 4 times in a year. I really would. Like once a season, like have something that pops up that's like really good. And where that's going to get really interesting is in the winter up here, because sure, we could do some ice fishing stuff. You know, we could go to like Maine, you know, and do some cool ice fishing stuff. You know, we could work out some situations, you know, with like shanties and stuff. And actually, that would be amazing. Record while ice fishing. The other thing is, it's a great excuse to head way south and go and fish Florida, you know?
There you go.
And do some shit like that. Like, I think that could be really cool. And what's great about that is those really big sends, that's not going to interfere with your tournament schedule at all, you know?
No, but one thing we are overlooking that's going to interfere with.
Oh, what's that?
Remember, I'm coaching for another 5 years.
Oh, that's right. That is right.
November to April. So, but we'll find out because there's always a week off for one of the breaks that you know the schools do. So we'll see about that. It's not a no. It's we just might not be as easy as we think.
Exactly. Yeah.
Let me follow up on some trifecta stuff here.
Yep.
So Lauren wants everyone to know it's still an event. It's just free now. It's just we're just having a party. No measuring. She actually says no rules. So this is Vietnam. No measuring. Use whatever bait you want in a yak. Take a pick. Whatever. Brian O is asking, any chance for people to learn saltwater fishing at this event? Well, I'll be there and I'll learn it. So you can learn with me, Brian O. Yeah,
actually, I think this is an ideal situation because you're going to be with other people that are used to doing this. And, you know, even after, you know, when everybody's meeting up, you can definitely pick the brains of people who know what's going on, you know?
Nelson.
Yes, exactly.
Like I'll be doing. Lauren says, come for lunch. And if we pre-registered, you get lunch for free.
Yep.
If not, it costs $15 for lunch. I did say that correctly in the first place.
Mm-hmm.
We good? I'm reiterating that. Good. So, all right. Runs Friday at 5 p.m. through Sunday at 10 p.m. That's the entire event. Lunch at noon on my new patio, meaning her new patio at 3 Bells.
Oh, nice.
So I think we covered all that. Lauren, give me a thumbs up. We're good. I wanted to make sure that all got out because this is kind of a different year for that. So.
Oh, yeah. And it's timely. I mean, it's coming up, you know. I mean, we want people to know about it and be aware of it.
Yep. So. And keep an eye out for the 3 Bells page on Facebook. She said that Derek would be updating that with all that information as soon as possible, probably tomorrow.
And we will share that, obviously, and shove it down everybody's throats.
Yep. So there we go.
That's how we do it.
Yeah. So what'd you do this week, my friend? You had a week.
So this week was kind of nuts because this was one of those weeks where I had a wedding, so I needed to do a decent amount of planning. It wasn't anything crazy or anything that I couldn't necessarily handle, but I went out on. So we got back on Monday, was it? Yeah, we got back on Monday, and Tuesday morning, I got up bright and early, and I went and I dropped off the trailer. And, you know, I mean, traveling all that way, like when Delirious and I came back, there was a spot where we like kind of like edged right into New York City where I was like, my directions just kind of rerouted us. And I was just kind of like, I don't know if I like bringing this trailer down here, man. We're just going to do the best we can with it with no problem whatsoever. We had done a bunch of I dropped the trailer off the next day, got that all set up, put my kayak, back in order, cleaned some stuff up. I had freaking that Black River mud caked everywhere.
Still on, I hand washed all my shit and I couldn't get some of it off. That stuff is fucking glue.
It's insane. It is absolutely insane. So then Tuesday, I guess it was like Tuesday afternoon, I was just like, I got nothing going on. I got trivia already all set. I had put that together late Monday night. I had, all the I's or T's were crossed, I's were been dotted. As far as my week leading up, it was just basically planning the wedding material. And I'm like, well, I got a couple of questions out there for the couple. I'm going to take this afternoon and just go and do some fishing because then I can knock out one of my trips this week. So I go out and I was throwing around. Remember when we were down in Maryland? I was throwing around one of those. What I think they're called billy goats from Z-Man. Yes. It's like a buzz toad style, but what's nice about them is it's Z-Man, so they're the Elastec and they float. I mean, even with a 5/0 EWG hook, like they float. It's great. It's like a buzz bait you can pause, It's so cool. So I'm flipping this and skipping it underneath, overhanging limbs and getting way up, like under the bank. And I caught a nice 17, which was awesome. And the real main reason why I was going out for this main send was that there was something that didn't happen in Maryland, and that was rigging up my camera to shoot some footage. And a lot of it was because I had this plan in order of how I was going to provide power to my camera, and then also control the actions to start, stop, and everything else. And that kind of sucked. Like, it didn't work out. I never put it on the boat because, remember, we did launch promptly at 7:30, and my brain was scrambled at that point trying to, figure out how we're going to make all this stuff work, logistics. And it just never happened. So the ball got dropped there. I said, screw it, Tuesday, we're going to go hook this sucker up. I did play around with the camera angle. That was the main focus, was getting that angle dialed in. I like it. It's cool. It's a good over the shoulder shot. Nothing, it's not groundbreaking or anything. But what I was afraid of was that my broad ass shoulders were going to take up the entire lower half of the screen, and you weren't going to be able to see anything else. That's not the case at all. It's a nice wide view. It's a good, I think Elise said, gave it the term experience angle. Like, it gives you a good, like you're out there on the journey. So played around with that. Actually, in that video, if you guys go on our YouTube channel and you look, you'll see it, camera test. I put this video up there, and you'll see me. I go past the canoe guy. The guy who was in the FTG from a few weeks ago. I go past the canoe guy with the twin Old Town canoes. So I caught one decent,
and the shitty attitude,
yes, exactly. And I picked up that one fish. I couldn't get another bite if I had to, but I had a short amount of time while I was out there. Headed back in Wednesday, didn't get out. Thursday, didn't get out. But Friday, Wednesday and Thursday, I pretty much put into office work, doing a lot of that stuff, prepping the wedding and stuff. Friday, I went out and I did some fishing, and I went, no, I take that back. I didn't do any fishing on Friday. I didn't go out until Sunday. Today was the next day I had gone out. And I normally don't get up and fish after I do a long event like a wedding. Because really, like, a wedding is between, the work that I start when I'm loading up to when I'm packing up at the end of the night and then driving back home. I mean, it can be a 12, 13-hour day in some cases. It's a long time. So what I do is I oftentimes will have the idea in my head, like, yeah, I'll get up nice and early, I'll go fishing. And my legs are just shot. I've been on my feet all day. I'm just like, yeah, I don't have it in me. So, like, bank fishing is like early in the spring. This would happen with a couple of weddings, and I'm like, yeah, it ain't happening. I'm not going bank fishing. Not going to do it. We'll go tomorrow, the next day or something. I happened to go to bed. I came home, went to bed as soon as I got in the house. Woke up. I had an alarm set for 5:15. I woke up at 4:30, just looking around, and I looked out the window, and I was like, oh, it looks like it's getting kind of bright out. I was like, oh, I'll see what's going on. So I look over my clock, and I'm like, it's 4:30. Maybe it was 4:45, something like that. I was in my kayak by 5:30. I was like, screw it, let's do it. I was like, let's go. So I got up, got my stuff together, went out, did my thing, and it was awesome. We had a great time. We had a really, really, really good time with it. I went out and I was throwing around that frog again. Same kind of pattern that I was looking to get on, and I got a bunch of swipes on it in this one section, this same part of the pond where I had picked up that 17 earlier in the week, and I had couldn't get anything to kind of really commit, so I played around with a few different areas. I was like, okay, so maybe we'll come back over here, we'll try it out. I ended up like I usually do, slower and smaller. I ended up throwing. I ended up switching out to a Ned rig eventually. I threw a paddle tail swim bait for a while on a jig head. And then I threw I think it was a grub, and didn't get anything on the grub. But then I switched over to, what was the plastic I used? It was kind of like a smallie beaver. But I have really good luck in this body of water. I've had good results with green pumpkin and chartreuse. And I have some of these tiny little creature baits that are green pumpkin and chartreuse. And I was like, I'll throw one of these guys on. It's like my third cast in the same section where I had luck earlier, and I had those blow-ups earlier in the morning. I hooked one of the smallest bass I've caught this year. So, and it's so weird. Like it was a bass, but I couldn't really tell right away if it was a largemouth. Like I couldn't see the lateral line, and there's no smallmouth in this pond. So it just had a funky looking pattern. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I think this thing couldn't have gone any more than 8 inches, 9 inches. It was tiny. Let that guy go, size up a little bit of a dink. Now we're talking maybe a true Trent. No, a little bit larger than a true Trent. And then I caught one decent one. A 13 was the biggest I caught all day. And then I worked my way back around to the bank, and at this point I was just absolutely famished. So I said, screw it, I'm going home. Plus I was exhausted after the wedding. And, I think I got home and it was like quarter of 12. And so I'm like, I'm going to go home, hang out for a bit. I got a phone call from my mom about a family gathering that was scheduled for today. And my wife and I just talked about this last week, but we screwed up the date. So change of plans for today. No relaxing around the house. I went out and I sat in the sun and drank my seltzer water and conversed with a bunch of family I don't see nearly enough, and ate a bunch of food. And then Holly stayed home. It was just Delaney and I. So we came home and then, grabbed dinner. And that's here we are. We're recording Podcast Greatness. So that was basically my week all the way around. The one other thing I do want to mention is that in this week's round of trivia games, I brought back a favorite. One of my favorites, like I've got a couple of music rounds that I use and I'll kind of breathe a little bit of new life into every once in a while with some new songs. One of those, a good example is the one, Songs Your Dad Did Coke To. Very, very popular. There's 2 volumes of it already. There's this one, though, that has 3 volumes, and it's metal covers. And these are like pop or even some classic rock songs. And they're redone by metal bands, and they all do basically the same thing. Like the verse is just like unbelievably brutal vocals, and then when it gets to the hook, you get the nice clean melodic where they're emulating the original song. So it's very easy to play Name That Tune, even if you don't necessarily know those songs, whatsoever. But every once in a while, you find somebody who's like, no, I like that version. I like that. That's good. Like I had a version of Uptown Funk that was amazing, so good. Yeah, good stuff.
Yeah, I'll get into that in a second. I had a week too.
You did?
I did have a week. Yeah, when we last talked, it was Crumpton, and I left ass early. I left well before you guys. I was out
way
of there
early. Yeah.
I mean, we finished recording at midnight?
About that.
And I was up at 5:30. So I was out the door. I drove right up the road to Delaware, where a buddy of mine met me for coffee. One of my military buddies lives down that way, and a quick coffee ended up being bullshitting for 2 hours at a gas station where they sold coffee. So we did that. And then I made my way home, straightened out the house a little bit for about a day on Tuesday. And then Wednesday, I had my 3rd round knockout matchup for MAKB.
Right.
Totally forgot about this one.
Yeah.
It's been a long week. It's been a long, 3 weeks. So with the format this year, it's pick your own lake. If you don't want to fish with the person that you're paired off against, you don't have to. You can pick your own lakes. You just can't use the same lake twice. So I faced off against Jerry Andrews this round, and I didn't know where he was fishing, but I said, he asked if we want to fish together. I said, no, I kind of have an idea, and I was kind of rolling the dice. Mm-hmm. I know we've talked about it on the show. I never mentioned the name of the pond, but I found this little tiny pond on the Cape that for whatever reason spits out, I think, larger than average fish. And I don't mean 23 and 24 inches. I just mean for a small, 4, 5, 8, 10 acre pond, there's an abnormal amount of 17 and 18 inch fish in there. And I did pull out one that was a monster, but that thing's probably been eaten at this point.
Sure.
Somebody probably got it. But I said, I'm going to roll the dice and I'm going to go out there. So I initially planned on going out and grabbing a hotel Tuesday night and just sleeping there.
That's right.
I said, fuck it. I went to bed at like 6 o'clock in the afternoon, evening, whatever. And I woke up at 2:30 and got my ass out there. And the matchup, I think Jerry hit a limit first. He hit a limit quick, but it was smaller fish. My first fish was 17 and a half. My second fish was 18 and a quarter.
Mm-hmm.
And then I started I filled out my limit with little guys, and then I ended up getting 2 more 17s, a 17 and a half and a 17 even. So I ended up taking it. I forget the score. I think I beat him by 6 inches. Best 3 fish. So I got 18 and a quarter, 2 17 and a halves. And I think Jared 16 and change and 2 15s and change. But I am now in the Elite 8 of a 64-man tournament. So this was...
That's awesome, dude.
Another year. It's crazy. So I know I had, and this may have jinxed him. It may have jinxed him. Within my bracket, my next opponent would have been a close friend of the show.
Oh.
Dude.
That's right.
And he went ahead and let a 16 jump off his fucking board, which sounds like a cheap excuse, but that's all right. We love Nate, even with his cheap excuses. And Neil Raposa beat Nate out of the tournament, showed him the door.
Yep.
Nate, I was looking forward to having a one-on-one with you. I'm looking just as forward to having one with Neil. So I'll be facing off with Neil Raposa from Rhode Island. Next round, we're going to have a little fun. I already know where I'm fishing. I told him where I'm fishing. I'm going A1, baby. I've held off of A1 this whole tournament. I'm pulling it out. Grab it out of the hat right now. Bam, right. A1. Let's see what happens.
Oh, hey.
So
that's
it'll
awesome.
be fun. Yep.
Nice.
So that was Wednesday. Thursday and Friday were doing shit days, and then Friday I made my triumphant return to your triumphant return for trivia.
Yes, you did.
Over at Casa de Lisa.
And what an impression you made on Friday.
We did all right. So here's what happened. I sat down at a table with a couple of the regulars, Joe and Tasha, and Joe and Tasha and I have a mutual friend. And hold on a second. Gravy, I know it's weeded out. I fish the thing regularly. I have a knack for it in the summer. I got it. Don't worry about it. Thank you for your concern on my next round survival, Gravy. I'm good. I know what I'm doing.
I'll tell you who's weeded out.
Well, yeah. Us in about 2 hours. All right, anyways. Friday night, Casa de Lisa, sat down with Joe and Tasha. We have a mutual friend, buddy I went to high school with, Tommy, and his girlfriend, Tara. And we all sat down at the same table. And then the wild card strolled in. All right. There is a gentleman who plays trivia. He is a local pastor, loves his trivia, comes in.
He is.
Has some food, has a beer, sits down with us. But he's fucking brilliant. When we put us all together, right? So Tommy's a chemical engineer. So he's got all the science stuff down pat. Joe's a sports guy. I've got all the nerd shit in my back pocket. And Father Atreyu, he's like geography, religion, you name it. Like, we have our angles covered. Now, I don't know if you heard us talking before we started.
No.
But, we almost had something really funny happen. And as we were sitting there, the entire Hendo family walks in. As we know, the Hendos.
Oh, yeah.
Nemesis of all, right? Because they're good. They're goddamn good, right? So they walk in, they sit down. I'm like, the Hendos are here. And I said, we should just make our whole team, all of our team names, because there's 4 of us. 1, 2, 3, 4 teams. So Tommy and Tara played together. Joe and Tasha played together. Trey is by himself. I'm by myself. I said, we should all have them Hendo based. So there should be I said, I'll be Smoking Hendo. And you could be taking out the Hendo, and you can be right up the Hendo. You know what I mean? Like, we were just going to do all that. We never did it because I think it was 2 minutes before trivia started, and we're like, we don't have time for this shit.
I would have died. I would have died if Atreyu's name was in the name of the Father, the Son, and the Holy Hendo. He couldn't do that, though. I get it. But, dude, that is a solid gold team name.
Or, bless you, my Hendo.
Bless you, my Hendo.
I thought Smoking Hendo was good.
Smoking Hendo is great.
He likes fucking rap. So.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, we were going to do that. It never happened. Yeah, Lord's jumping in. Holy Hendo. There we go. That's another good one.
Holy Hendo. There we go.
So what happened was, by the end of the night, I had ended up in first place. Father Atreyu backed me up, got the last question, didn't let any of those Hendos sneak by me. What was it? Tom Hendo got the second place, I believe, because that's what he does.
I think he got third place. It was either him or Mr. Hendo that got third place.
Mr. Hendo. It was Mr. Hendo.
Yeah.
Oh, second. Well, no, Atreo passed him?
Yeah, Atreyu was up in front of him. So you guys nailed down first and second.
We cleaned up. Yeah, we did. We did what we had to do. We did what we set out to do. Ellie just says drugs. All right.
National treasure. Drugs.
Yep. So that was Friday. Saturday, I had a little something going on. Yes, drugs. Saturday, I had something going on. We have the EKF event coming up next weekend. And there's a lot of miles between the Connecticut border and the Vermont border of Massachusetts.
Mm-hmm.
And I had to go scouting locations for throw-ins. Now, the Pendergasts are actually crashing at my house for this, so I don't know where they're going to fish. They may fish with me. I kept that in mind and said, well, if I'm going to pick somewhere, it's got to be somewhere easy access to get in and out because they have a trailer and enough room for all of us to like spread out. Now, this is not a team event. We're not acting like a team, but when I went up to New Hampshire, they brought me to their launches and said, have at it. So that was really nice of them. And Steve Smith will be with them too. So
yeah,
we're gonna probably throw in together and then everybody will spread out and do their thing. And we have some plotting and planning going on with that. I have to talk to them, but they'll be in Thursday, which will be awesome, and we'll have a good time. So I did that on Saturday, and then today was the Three Bells trail number 4, trail stop number 4.
Mm-hmm.
And do you remember the disgust and distaste I had last year when I talked about the lake I'd never fished before, and I chose for the Western Division trail stop, the up at Lake Garfield, and I said, oh, it's not so bad. And then we went out and fished it that day, and it was miserable. Like, no one got a bag.
Yeah, I think so.
Oh, it was fucking awful.
Yeah.
Well, Derek got his taste of that today. It's learning that as a director, sometimes you pick a lemon when you don't do. We tried lower and upper Moodus Reservoir in East Haddam, Connecticut. Oh my God, Bobby! I got a limit first. I got up. I think I got up to 60-something inches first, or else John Medina did. Whatever. John Medina had a great day. I think he might have hit 60 first, and then I got to 6. I passed him real quick.
Yep.
I was hanging out in first place till about 10 or 11 at 60 inches. Now that's 5 fish. I had a 10-incher in there. My biggest fish was 13 and a quarter. I'm like, this is fucking brutal. Now, the difference between the two lakes were the upper reservoir, which was in the south. Go ahead and tackle that mentally. Had a smaller population of lake lice. I fished the other one. Myself, Derek, and Johnny Nunez. Johnny, great to fish with you. Going to be seeing him in the future. I'm sure at different events. The lake lice. Oh my God! So the lake we picked. Well, the one in the south, the upper one in the south, was wider. It had more nooks and crannies. You could escape them if you wanted to.
Gotcha.
The lake the three of us fished
not so
was narrow. It was like 2 lanes of traffic with boats constantly ripping by each other, and then 3 jet skiers that were having a fucking blast jumping the waves in their wake. I'm like, this is insane. To the point where John Medina on the other lake actually texted me throughout the day saying, how you enjoying those things? I can hear them. That was fucked up.
Yeah.
It was pretty bad. And then on top of that, the lunker of the day, which John Medina got, 15 inches.
Jesus.
Both lakes turned up a 15-incher. I think the top 5 of us had over 60 inches. I'll cover that in the tournament section. But my God. Hey, these are the days like, when you have a nibbler off like this, it's anybody's game. It's anybody's game. Yes, Lauren's right. It was the Bass Pizza off. So it was rough, but congrats to, you know what? I'll say my congrats in the tournament section. That'll be our teaser for later.
There you go.
Say my congrats then.
There you go.
So that's my week. That brings us to today. I came home sunburnt, took a fucking nap, had a couple of pizza pockets, and I'm raring to go here, man. Let's get angry. You want to start bitching at shit?
Well, yeah, I think that's actually a really good idea. Let's go ahead and dive into it. So A few weeks ago, this summer, I had mentioned going to night fish one evening and just being like appalled at all of the cars that were parked in spots designated for trailers at the pond I've been focusing on. Now, I mean, I know that this happens. In fact, like, I've been guilty of it before, and I understand that, like, if you don't drive a trailer, you certainly don't think about trailers at all. But once you start utilizing a trailer for whatever your vessel might be that you want to drop into a body of water, you start to realize the difficulty that there is in, parking and logistics. And, you park one way, you could screw up a bunch of spots for somebody that they might need to just put their, regular vehicle in without trailer. So lots of these places will have, and granted, boat ramps are all, there's a lot of interpretation with boat ramps, I think we can call it. There's a lot of variations from, facilities, depending on the body of water, all kinds of stuff. So this was, I guess this was Tuesday when I had gone out. I had gone out and I pulled down into my ramp, into my local pond's ramp, and I see that the 3 spots for trailers are full of vehicles that don't have trailers on them. I snap a picture just because I'm like in awe at this point. I'm like, are you kidding me? It's Tuesday at like 10:30 in the morning. Like, don't you people have jobs? And I'm like, what the hell's going on? One of those vehicles was the Canoe Brothers, with only one canoe off. So I pull further down to that level because there's 2 separate sections, and I pull down into this spot, and I'm looking around to see if somebody's loading in or loading out, and I see nothing. So I go and I back up, and I do the loop around the block, and I come back, and I basically get in a position where I can wait until one of these vehicles moves up or something happens. And I'm playing this game in my mind of like, should I just call like the non-emergency local PD and make a call and see like what they may or may not do about it? And I was like, they're probably not going to do anything about it. Like, this is a waste of time, blah, 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 blah. And then I notice a kayak come paddling back in toward the ramp. And I'm like, okay, this has to be one of these people, because ironically, there are 3 parking spots for vehicles without trailers right up at the top of this parking lot. Right there. They were all empty. But with my trailer, it's not like I could drop my boat and then park there, because then nobody can get out. My trailer is going to block the flow of traffic. So I see somebody coming in, and they do their business. I think they actually saw me waiting and kind of like, need a chest, kind of got moving pretty quick. They move their car. I go down and I grab that spot. I launch my boat. Everything's great. Fast forward about 2 days, and I was on Facebook, which I rarely am. I rarely go on Facebook. And I was looking at a group that I follow that is about a local body of water, a local fishery. And I see a post on there that is the post is sharing a post from a different group, a paddling enthusiast group in this state. And this post basically says in it, I was blown away. I went to go and park, and, there were all these cars filling up these spots that were designed for trailers. The author of this post did not have a trailer, parked in one of these spots as well, and then a local police officer showed up and started dishing out tickets. And because the author of the post was there, the officer said, hey, you can't park here. These are designated for trailers. You don't have a trailer. The auxiliary parking is over here, or park on street, or whatever the alternative was. And what happened was the author got a warning. The others got tickets, and that was it. They went along their way. So I chimed in and I said, that's the thing. I go, you never really think about it from the trailers aspect, but it leads to so many more problems if you just irresponsibly leave a trailer like on the side of the road, or I mean, it's more challenging to maneuver. And it's just one of these things where, and this an initial author was basically driving home the point from this post of like, why would somebody need a trailer for a kayak? And to my point, it's like, who gives a shit? Like,
True.
That's irrelevant. If they use a trailer, they're choosing to use a trailer, maybe because it works for their vehicle, it works for their needs. You see it all the time.
Disabled, and they can't put something up on a roof.
Exactly. I mean, you never know the situation. Like, it's up to them. But even regardless, if it were 3 people that had boats, you're not putting a 21-foot nitro on your roof.
You aren't. I am.
You know what I mean? Like that's not like this is a thing, and those spots are there for a reason. So I now what I thought was very funny is this. I had gone today because I'm kind of scrambling for some of the words to recall what this post was about, because I went back today to go look for that post, and it was deleted. I think it was deleted from the original group that it was on, and in doing so, it disappeared off the group that I follow. So it kind of sucks that I can't grab all of this stuff, but I will say this, that the original poster, the author of this post, was named Karen.
Ooh.
Ironic? No, I don't think so. So, I mean, for me, my hot topic is this, is like, if you see long lines in a parking area, stay out of them if you don't have a vehicle that can fill them up,
True.
Or if you get to a ramp and you see that someone is in a trailer spot, but there's all this empty space behind them, clearly that's an invitation for you to park immediately behind them. Clearly. Lessons learned are very helpful.
I know when we initially talked about this, I had recommended, and this was 2 weeks ago when it first happened with the canoe assholes.
Yep.
I think I had said, because you had described to me, and I've only fished that pond 2-3 times, so I'm not familiar with the parking, and I'm probably guilty in the mornings on a weekday of throwing myself. This is before you even got a trailer.
Yep.
Putting myself into one of those spots, because it is easier to get down to the water that way. Right?
Sure.
Now, you said there's 3 spots up above that are labeled now for
car top. Yep.
Car top.
Yep.
That's pretty clear. The car topper should be up there. Call the cops. I think that was my recommendation a couple of years. Call the cops, see what happens. And obviously, with the other spot where the cops responded and did that, I mean, it's pretty cut and dry. But you and I we had quite an animated conversation, I think, Friday about this. And there are going to be gray areas. We discussed that, but bottom line,
it's going to happen. Yeah.
If there's spots that are labeled for trailers and there's spots labeled for car tops, it's a no-brainer. Fucking, what's the problem? I mean, again, I'm guilty of it too. I'm a piece of shit, but I'm a human being. I can learn. I just won't do it anymore. I'm not a canoe guy.
Yeah. Not much of a canoe guy. Nothing against canoe guy. Not that there's anything wrong with being a canoe guy,
No. And we had an FTG change here. So I know in the intro you had mentioned for the FTG some YouTube fuckery going on and maybe knowing some rules. But we had a last minute FTG submission. And we'll get into that during its proper course. But that kind of shifts the FTG I had planned over to this section, which also falls under following rules.
Yeah, it does.
Holy shit. Well, let me tell you this. I got into a conversation with somebody about a couple days ago.
Mm-hmm.
And etiquette. It started with etiquette. Okay. And this person suggested I watch a YouTube video. Now, I'm going to leave all sorts of names out of this because
of course
my understanding is the initial FTG nominee apparently is a fucking great human being and probably fucked up, but fucked up and inadvertently pushed one of my buttons, like bad. Not even knowing me, doesn't know me at all. Fucking no big deal. But I just wanted to throw this in. So I fished with an organization a few years ago where rule and law breaking within a fishing tournament, there was a blind eye turned to. especially since some of the directors were doing the same.
Of course.
And it was bad. Leaving me, I left it. I was done. I was so upset. I'm like, fucking nobody's enforcing this. We're putting money in here. I'm fucking done. Fuck you. Out of here. And recently, there was a tournament that had some laws that, well, let's put it this way. The tournament rule stated that all applicable state laws shall be adhered to. And you guys are going to know why this pushes my button in a minute, because someone who placed high in the tournament and took home some money then put out a YouTube video explaining what this person did, and it was using under a certain size of a jig head in lead in a lead-free state. And the penalty for that was actually by the state pretty nasty. Like, it's probably the worst one I've heard of. And I'm not going to get into what, because it'll tell you what state it was, where it is. I'm trying to, again, keep this a little nebulous. The bottom line is this state was lead-free. This person came in, won a bunch of money, and not from the state. And it's that's what happens. So, and then turned around on YouTube and said, here's what I did, whether I know the law or not.
Yeah.
And here's what I did. And, fuck it. I don't care. Not like, it was not like that. Again, I've heard this person has a very good reputation as a nice person, but does that give now someone who was in that tournament, got bumped out of the money, the right to call up the director of the tournament and say, this person just admitted to breaking the law?
Yeah. Yeah, it does.
And breaking the rules of the tournament, because it's that nebulous line of all state rules should be applied to.
Yeah. That's to answer your question, it exactly does. It's messy and it's difficult to be the person who does that, but you'll never, ever, ever see people start thinking about the accountability of what they're doing until you make an example of somebody.
Yeah. Well, here's a great example. This is my response to this. So let's say this happens. Let's say let me put on a rat costume right now. I'm going to go ahead and rat this guy out, right? Let's play this game. We'll go down this path. I'm going to go ahead and put the costume on. I make a phone call and I say, hey, so-and-so. So look at this. This happened. What are you going to do about it?
There's a Bass and Bruce joke here.
I know. They're going to say, well, we'll have a talk. Okay, that's great. This person broke a rule and broke a law.
Yep.
No matter how stupid the law is, I'm not going to cover that anymore. Again, I don't care one way or another. It's just, if the law is there, you got to abide by it. I don't have a fucking problem.
Yeah.
So that, that nothing comes out of it. And I'll turn around and tell that director, well, look, okay, so the next one, I'm going to go ahead and bring like 18 Alabama rigs, because they're pretty much banned in every competition all over the country. I'm just going to bring them and I'm going to use them.
Yeah.
What are you going to do about it? And if they say, well, we're going to DQ you, that's hypocrisy. You know what I mean? Yeah. Like,
what you do is you use what you want and you don't say anything about it. In that case, there's that.
And then make a YouTube video about it.
What you do, what you do is you just don't fucking do it. Just be smart enough to shut up. That's what it is,
Well, again, I think, this is difficult because this person obviously did not know, but these tournaments, these bigger tournaments, put the onus on the angler to understand the rules and to follow them and to follow laws.
That's part of the competition.
Fuck, dude.
Yeah.
I mean, I think the lead item that was used is available, lead free. It's just the fact they just didn't do it.
Yeah.
And at this point, like, it used to be a few years ago, lead was way cheaper than, it still is way cheaper than tungsten, but there's so many alloys out there now that are like tin bismuth alloys are not as expensive. They're on par with lead.
Yeah.
Like, you can buy a Strike King jig, right?
Yep.
Fully rigged out Strike King jig for $2 to $3. Am I incorrect on that?
I think like about $3.
Yeah. That's the same. You can buy a jig head and a skirt. The skirt will cost you, if you buy a 5-pack, about 50 cents or less. And you can buy a jig head. Let's just use, I'll just use the one I use because, I'm not
the price
promoting them, but lead-free bass jigs, right?
Yep.
Those are the ones we made our jig kits out of.
Yep.
Those, what did we come out to those? It was like $2 a jig head or less.
Yeah, I think it was even less. I think it was like $1.75.
Yeah. So fucking for less than a Strike King jig, you now have a jig that's pretty much legal anywhere in the country.
Yep.
And you can't tell me that like a striking jig is going to catch more. It doesn't fucking matter. It's a jig.
Yeah.
There's my rant.
Yeah, fair enough.
We ranted. You and I, we did a rant. So read parking laws and fucking know the laws for the state you're fishing, and don't brag about it on fucking YouTube if you do it. That's all I got.
Yeah, that's wild. Friggin' wild, man. It's like Tim O'Keefe chimes in. He goes, dude, probably sandbags.
Well, we can get into that too if you want, Tim. I'll do that offline.
Oh, they all sandbag. They all love it. Let's go through some of these comments here because even going back into the parking, there's a lot of stuff here. Lauren chimes in. We're talking about this. She shares a little bit of experience. She says, oh, like the guy who ate my 8 rental parking spaces today with his truck and trailer at the marina, and he wasn't a member. That's insult to injury right there. Ouch.
Hi, Interstate Towing. This is Lauren from Three Bells.
Yep, exactly. I got a guy over at that towing company too. If you need some help, I got somebody. Brian O comments. He says, "Ouch." He's like, "Yeah, your lot can get really full with nonsense like that." He also follows up and says, "Or the car roof can't handle the PA-14." Ellie chimes in and says, I'm going to drop a deuce right at the driver's side door at any idiotic parking decisions. That, I think, sends the best message, you know?
Angry enough to shit.
An angry shit. I think, yeah, I like that. And then she follows that up by saying, call me part of the Justice League. Wonder Woman, The Flash, Ellie, the shitter.
The mad shitter. Ellie, were you in upstate New York a couple weeks ago?
Campground? Making deposits?
Oh, my God.
Oh, Gravy comments. He goes, I've double parked with a friend when there wasn't parking for rooftop. Yeah.
No problem with double parking. None.
Yeah.
On those things, I don't have an issue with it.
Yeah. I mean, especially if you two cars, you know one another. You're going at the same, coming and going at the same time. No, that's brilliant. That's efficiency, you know?
If you're coming and going at the same time, might be called the soup kitchen.
Could be. It could be. Lawrence says, Gravy, that makes sense. Shove 2 cars in there because you're saving spaces at that point. What else we got? Gravy says, like the director. He's, oh, okay.
Yeah. Taking shots at me.
Oh. And then
Gravy,
Brian O comments, too. He says, I'd be pissed if I lost out on money on someone who broke the rules. Ignorance of the law is not an excuse. I agree 100% on that. 100%. Then Lauren chimes in and says, look, there's zero excuse to not know the rules and adhere to them. Money should be forfeited. It hurts the reputation and integrity of the sport. Completely agree with that. And
well, then what it also hurts is the fucking wallet of the directors. So, you know, that director's got a decision to make.
That too. Yep.
Fucking ridiculous. Yep.
And then Brian comments here. He says, it's 2022. Why don't states have the fishing laws online? It's just lazy. You know, I mean, I think even if they are, it's some of the ways that it's written, it's so deep and so difficult to get to the fucking point sometimes that there is a lot of confusion. I mean, we had a conversation at I think it was the New England Fishing Show with DCR that was up there, and I would love to get them on the show routinely to talk about what you can and cannot do in Massachusetts. You know, I think it's amazing. You know, the more you can let people know, like what flies and what doesn't is amazing. You know.
Yeah, there's not a lot of states that have this lead-free shit. It's only like 6 or 7. This isn't that difficult, but fucking apparently it is.
That's exactly it. It's like, does everybody want to go lead-free if they're traveling a bunch of different states? They don't necessarily have to use it. I mean, I know for me, like the minute I started throwing tungsten, I never wanted to go back to lead for anything.
Yeah,
you know?
Exactly. It's a better fucking product.
Yeah,
but it's tungsten again. Tungsten's a little more expensive.
It is expensive. It is expensive. You can't deny that. But
I don't know if it's a law. Like what the fuck? I don't know what to say.
I would love to get a DCR. Good point.
Yeah,
she's like, I'd love to see you guys do a multi-state panel on shit like this. That'd be pretty cool.
Well, it wouldn't be just multi-state. We'd have to get tournament directors that cross state lines involved.
I think
nobody's enforcing this shit.
I think that's the most important thing. I mean, because
there's the other thing that really is fucked up is a lot of states have this weird definition for what a jig head is versus a lure. So like, is a chatterbait a jig head? Well, it's a jig head, but it's got a blade on it. So like, I know the whole point of this thing is to get loons to stop eating the fucking split shots and small jig heads.
Exactly.
Up to an ounce. Like, that's the point. Well, are they going to eat a chatterbait because it's got that blade on there? What about a spinnerbait? That's a lead head. I don't know. I'd like to get interpretation on this. Yeah. So we could start with Massachusetts. I mean, and then there's Massachusetts. Now, I love my state. I'm from here. I came back here. It's my home. Okay. It's what I know. We have one of the most fucked up lead laws because it bans the use but not the sale. So how does that help the consumer?
And that's
when you can go to your Walmart and it doesn't say banned in the state. You can just buy a thing of split shots. How do you know? You don't. So that's just dumb. Whereas like, I think it's New York and Maine and somebody else have, and I'm thinking here, I don't know that for sure. They have bans on the sale of it too. I know New York does.
Yeah.
But I think when I was at Oneida, I think I went into a Walmart and found lead split shots. So it's like, I don't know.
Yeah.
We need more answers. Maybe we can reach out to somebody who does public affairs for the DCR and they can straighten our asses out.
I like that idea.
Let's be educational.
Yeah, I think there's value. There's value there. It's definitely good. Should we talk about our survey now, or should we just go to break, do you think?
Well, let's talk about the survey before break.
Let's go ahead. We'll do that now. So, guys, this week, one of the things I had done, I decided, I was like, I just kind of want to like take like the overall, like, get an idea of where folks' heads are at. Now, this survey is still available. I've been posting the link for it on our story. I've posted it on Facebook. I didn't post it on our YouTube feed or anything like that. I didn't like leave it in the description of any of the videos or anything like that. And I haven't put it up on Patreon. But I just kind of wanted to like get an idea of what people thought of the show, what they liked, what they didn't like, how they consume the show, like how regularly, stuff like that. Because, it's one of these things where we're trying to kind of evaluate where we're going, and we want to know what's working, what's not working, what maybe needs attention, things like that. So I'm going to give percentages here. I don't want to give the total number of people that necessarily took the survey. So all these are going to be based on percentages because currently the survey is still available, and I want people to be able to go ahead and do this. So what I did is the first question was, do you listen to Jigs and Bigs regularly? And I put a definer there that says 2+ episodes each month would constitute to regularly. And 94% people listen to at least 2 episodes a month, which is great. That is really awesome. 6% says no, they don't listen regularly. I said, great. Next up was about platforms. What platform do you listen to the show on? And Spotify is leading here. Our analytics say differently. Our analytics say that Spotify is number 2. Spotify has 50% of the people who are polled here listen on Spotify, 39% for Apple Podcasts. Then we had 6% each for Amazon and for other unlisted. And there were other options that were in there. Google Podcast is in there. iHeartRadio is in there. Stitcher's in there. Pocket Casts. Streaming from the Jigs and Bigs website. All that's in there. All of those came up 0. Do you follow us on any of these social profiles? And this is one where you could check all. Every person who filled out this survey follows us on Instagram. Every single one. The link was primarily there, so that definitely helps. 56% of people follow us on Facebook. We had a tie on YouTube and Patreon for 33%. Now, what is interesting about that is that the Patreon fans, the Patreon followers, the jig heads, most of the content they get from us is on unlisted links on YouTube. So some of those might go hand in hand, though we are slowly getting more subscribers on YouTube. There's not a whole lot of content over there. The weakest turnout here is TikTok. At only 17% follow us on TikTok.
We don't dance. Makes sense.
Well, and part of the reason why I was asking that question is that I'm a firm believer in dropping, media in certain aspects, on different platforms for different reasons. But my primary focus is, does that format drive back to the flagship, the podcast, and I don't believe that TikTok does for us. For some people, it might be totally different. I've heard this before with other fishing content creators before, where they've said, we have a show, where we have a TikTok. We've got all these followers, but we don't see the flow of those followers making the transition to follow and watch the long form content necessarily. I understand it's different content, but the idea is at the end of the day, all of these other things we're trying to put them in place to drive back. In fact, Facebook now actually carries our podcast like on a feed. Like you could listen to our show on Facebook.
Oh, wow.
That's kind of a new thing. I don't think it's ever going to become a major player in the podcast platform world, but it is out there. Like it's, some people that are just like, oh yeah, I listen on Facebook, and hey, cool. That follows under that other category. This is the one that I thought was really interesting right here. What are your favorite show segments? We had a tie for the number one spot. You want to take a guess what they are?
Tie for number one.
Yep.
I would go FTG.
We actually had a three-way tie, now that I'm looking at it.
Three-way tie. So FTG, I would say segment one, our weekend reviews. I think that's kind of, everyone listens to that.
Yep.
That, FTG, and Just a Tip.
So FTG and Just a Tip, yes, 89% of everybody polled voted on that. Yeah, Just a Tip and FTG. The third one is Hot Topics.
Okay, so segment
the
one.
hot topics, like the beginning. I put so they all got 89%. We had a 2-way tie for the second most. Was weekly reviews and then interview segments, which surprised me. I thought interview segments was going to be much, much lower. We had a 50% turnout for Easter eggs. And I think that a lot of folks don't sometimes realize that the Easter eggs are there, and maybe they stop listening beforehand. So I sort of think that 50% number is exactly where it should be, like what we would expect. It's a kind of a crapshoot that people are going to get there.
After last week's Easter egg, people should be listening.
Yep.
If you guys aren't listening to what we put at the end of last week's show, fucking shame on you.
So good. It's so good.
It's so good. It's so good.
It hurts so bad. So that's 50% there for Easter eggs. Then it brings us to 39%. 39% of you like the tournament segments, tournament updates. 39%, not too bad. And then the show wrap-up got the least at 33%. So, I mean, the show wrap-up is kind of a wild card anyway. We never really, like lots of times we used to bury stuff back there and we'd be like, oh, we forgot to talk about this or something. So it was kind of like, oh, shit. But for the most part, we just kind of wrap the show up in a nutshell and kind of like throw it out there and stuff. And that's, the Easter eggs kind of fit in there too. But
you got to wrap the show up somehow, guys. We can't get rid of that.
Yeah. Yeah.
We can't be like, hey, here's our interview. Bye.
Yeah, exactly. Oh, good talking to you there. All right, see you. Dead air.
Yep.
Yeah. Or just
crickets.
Or just Sour Patch Kids. This one.
So that's That's funny that 50% of the people like the Easter eggs, which we don't always have.
Yeah.
But they're sitting through probably that last segment to get there.
To get to them, exactly. I think what it is that they're not. It's not their favorite spot. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like when there's an Easter egg, they're just like, oh, shit. And they dig it. This next question
Bobby, can I?
Yeah?
Oh, go ahead.
Oh,
no, go.
This next question I put out there was, who would you like to see on the show for guests? Because I've got a short list of people that I want to hit up. One of them, by the way, I'm recording with Thursday night.
Awesome.
It's B Squared Bassin.
All right.
Yep, Brad Brown. It's going to be good. I'm psyched. You want to talk about good content? That guy knows what's up. He's a funny son of a bitch. So I'm psyched. I'm psyched to record with him. A couple of things that I thought were interesting here were people's suggestions on other guests, like who they would like to see on the show. Someone commented and said that they'd like to see follow-up on more guests from past episodes, which is kind of interesting. We've done that a couple of times. Like we've had Delirious on a bunch. Cody's been on a few times. Wild Bill's been on. Ellie's been on. Becca's been on. But like some of these other guests that we haven't had in a while, like maybe we should, get in touch with I don't know, smallmouth doctors, or you play around with that, or maybe we should check in with Kari and see how the art business is in Minnesota.
It's well, I follow her on Instagram. It's fucking cooking.
Apparently, she's doing great.
She just had a fucking art show in her backyard on some pieces that she's kind of been hiding in the attic somewhere or some shit.
That's the collection you want, the hiding in the attic Kari originals.
There was a beautiful walleye painting. So, yeah, we can do that.
Someone said anyone who can give good tips. Of course, good tips are great. This one was really good, and I don't know. I'm going to say the first two names, and we've already said them before. But the third one I think is kind of crazy. Ellie Noel is one. Cody Van Zant is number two, right? Timeless, both of them.
We should get them together on the same show.
But the fact that they left this name in there in the company of the other two, I think says something about the other two as well. Jeremy Wade. Dude, if I can get Jeremy Wade on this show, I'm going to. I don't even know how to get in touch with homeboy. But, that's pretty awesome. Somebody put Delirious Angler, Becca, and Random Listeners. That Random Listeners thing I find intriguing.
That's easy.
Yeah, we just get a bunch of people to drop their phone number or something, and we call them mid-show and be like, "What are you doing?"
Well, that might not work out so well.
That could be bad.
I think we should schedule it like a guest and talk to some listeners.
Yeah.
And I mean, the whole point of the interview segment is, regardless of where somebody's at in fishing, whether they're a quote unquote professional, or they're a tournament angler, or they're a weekend warrior, or they are just learning the game, we want to hear the stories.
Yeah, that's exactly it. It's all about the stories, and everybody's got stories, no matter where they are in their journey. Everybody's got something to share. We have another one here, says either more influencers or actually more of the local guys that usually get brought up during the show. That I thought was interesting too, because we're always talking about Tim and Russ. We're always talking about Jerry Multi-Species House. We're referencing all of these guys, and I think that could be really cool. In fact, Sean, you and I had talked about the idea of maybe doing a little round table in the off season. I think that would be a great little segment to throw in when it's freezing cold out and nobody wants to ice fish, or we maybe make the investment in a little ice fishing hut and just do a big round table and record in there.
That would have been like our fireside chat. That's where Tim and Russ went by the wayside. We were supposed to have the fireside chat up at Oneida, and it didn't happen. That's all right. That's easy enough. That's one quick phone call, and
we can make that shit happen. Yeah, absolutely. I love
that's a really good idea. Lauren jumped in with a question saying, I guess the question is, what is your purpose of having a guest? Well, obviously the easy paint by numbers answer is content for this show, but our show is not just for the competitive angler. It's not just for the newbie. It's for everybody. And maybe somebody who's at a different stage can give a listener different perspective and by their story, and then we go from that. I mean, you never know what could happen, but everybody's got a story. We want to hear it. And
there is also that, while that is 100% true and at the foreground of the main reason why we have folks on it as a guest, there is the other side of that is it's beneficial to the show to grow our network with who we're talking with constantly. And by doing that, we do I'll give you an example. When we had Lady with a Lure, Abigail on. Abigail did an amazing job of promoting the episode that she was on. And I never even asked her to. She was just nope, this is what I do. And ran with it. And that episode saw a huge bump in listens within about 2 to 3 weeks after she went on. And same thing with, some of our most popular episodes have the numbers of listens that they have because the guest gets that whole social engagement and they understand it. So they throw that out there. Dust Off is one. Rachel is another one. I mean, Rachel right now is sitting in the first place spot still with the most numbers of listens. And a lot of that is, so the guest does us a solid for sure. Granted, those listens aren't necessarily long time. They're not jig heads. You know what I mean? They're listening for that content. They're supporting the person who's on the show at that time, that guest. But there is also, like, it's like a filter. Some of those people are just going to filter right through. Some of them are going to stick around. And they're going to be like, these two lightly roasted hippies are okay. You know? Like, they're all right. We like them. And, and actually, there was a question I meant to put on here, but I left it off. It was like, do you even fish? Because I've noticed just having conversations, and this comes a lot from like my working, really doing trivia and stuff. People will say, "Oh yeah, listen to your podcast," and these are people that don't fish. You know, which is kind of wild. So they like some of this other stuff. It's pretty interesting.
I got just that. That's a great example of that. Like,
Yep.
I've got a buddy in Maine who doesn't fish. He's looking to get into it, but he's not doing it a lot right now. He's very busy during the summer. He does a lot of grounds work. He's a property manager. And the other day, maybe what was it, about a month and a half ago? Remember, I had written up our show notes with the intro, and I put something at the end like fucking fire down a cup of hot piss or something like that.
I remember that.
It.
Yep.
I never said anything to my buddy Brandon. I got a text from him Tuesday morning saying, "I'm just firing down a cup of hot piss right now."
That's awesome. That's fucking awesome. They're
out there.
4 more names that people want to see. Greg Blanchard.
Okay.
That's going to happen. Christine Fisher. We'll try to make that happen. Alex Rudd. Would love to make that happen. B-Lat. Ellie. The people have spoken.
All right, Ellie. Stop taking shits in front of people's cars and start working some phones.
Oh man, so there's that. Let's go on to the last questions. I'll go ahead and wrap this up here. These are individual respondents. I don't want to watch this. Would you like to see? This is a question that I threw out because I was like, I've never really cared about this so much, but I sort of want to know. You know? So I wrote this question. I said, has the use of adult language been an issue for you in the past? Rate on a scale of 1 to 10. Put in parentheses here that we are not planning on changing this, but we are curious. 10 being I don't listen because you're foul-mouthed. Okay? And number 1 being say whatever the fuck you want. 100% of you said number 1. So thank you.
Round of applause.
Yes.
That's from me too.
To all of you. Yes. So that was one thing I was concerned with. I was like, but I don't want to hold back. You know what I mean?
Let me just go ahead and satisfy our audience. Fuckity, fuck, guy.
Balls, you know?
Pooping in a parking lot. You know, it's all good.
It's all good. That's what we do. This is a good question too. Is what would you like to see the show begin to include or focus more or less on? And this we got some good suggestions for. Some of these suggestions, I think I made this a requirement to fill out. So some people put like this first one is nothing specific. Someone put cool stories about fishing setups for multi-species. I love that idea because I'd love to see like more diversity and stuff. I know I've talked about getting out and doing some carp fishing. I just have to pull the trigger on that and get out and do that. I also want to experiment and do a little bit of fly fishing. We're talking about doing some saltwater stuff.
Let's just go ahead and I'll help you right now with the carp fishing. The people ask it, they want to know. Go ahead and buy a fucking medium fucking spinning rod that you would use for Ned rigging and drop shotting, and go ahead and you'll be fine.
Pretty much. I mean, you know. Yeah. I love this next one. More gear and food reviews.
We can do that.
Buckle up.
Easy.
We got reviews coming. Doing great on all aspects of the shows. I love Sean's stories and how his fishing went, and I love listening to Bobby's day-to-day outside of fishing updates too. Truly love it now the way it is. More honest bait/gear reviews, new gear and baits. I'm the guy for that because I love trying out new shit. I will gladly do it and check it out. So we will definitely talk about like some stuff that you guys think I should be trying, and I'll go ahead and do that because I'm the guy that has no issues taking a day and bringing that one rod and going like, all right, we're going to work the shit out of this for 4 hours and we're going to see what happens. And if nothing happens, nothing happens, you know? We chalk it up to that. This is a good one, too, and I have questions about this as well. Reading water / other abstract tips. Hard to talk about, but tons of juice hidden in there. There definitely is, absolutely. I feel like I don't feel confident in my ability to read water at all, especially in moving water. That's something I'd like to work on and focus on at some point, and I think I would probably help me greatly, do so. So maybe we bring some folks in and we have like maybe a round table about that. That might be a good idea. Let's see, what else do we have here? Maybe a saltwater guest and funny stories. Saltwater guests, that's a good idea, too. I mean, we've already kind of got some friends that are in the salt scene, especially in New England. Yeah, I think that's actually a really good idea. In fact, I was thinking about that, Sean. I'd like to work out a collab with them.
Okay.
That would be a lot of fun.
By the way, yeah, so what we're doing, folks, we're doing visual stuff here because Bobby and I are assholes and it's fucking 10 o'clock at night. I just held up the sticker I got from the charter that we took in North Carolina.
Yep.
I'll be in contact with them in a couple weeks. They're pretty active on Instagram, so we're gonna talk to them. Hopefully, get them on as guests and go from there. And they actually had some stuff. They had some merch and stuff, Bobby. I said I would hold off because I want to talk to you so we can both be wearing sexy merch. And speaking of sexy merch, I have to also call Heidi and Billy at Naqua. I went out to dinner with them at a restaurant, and you and I need the hats from that restaurant.
That's right.
We're going to keep that quiet. We're going to keep that very quiet. But yes, we are assholes, and and Heidi and Billy will aid us in that. Continue, sir.
Somebody was not so bold as to go ahead and say, I want to know all of Sean's lures and colors. I said, okay. I'm sure there's a dollar amount,
I mean, look, let me ask you a question. You've got the names attached to those without reading them?
I don't. This is all anonymous, yeah.
I mean, look, if somebody's tight with me and they fish with me a lot, I tend to show them. And I say, like, I've showed you, Bobby. I'm like, I only use, like, 3 colors.
Yeah.
There you go.
Then more species other than bass. Jeff Little. We've had Jeff Little on the show. Brian O chimes in. Says Jeff Little, didn't he come to Three Bells and shoot some videos? Pretty sure he's a multi-species guy, including salt. Yeah, he definitely is, and he's just a wealth of information.
We've got some salt team members on Three Bells staff as well, so we can get them
absolutely
involved.
No, I think that's
we have
a great
options.
idea.
It's just a matter of people saying yes and scheduling it. I mean, how many times what do you think our ratio is? Our success ratio, and this is not on us because we're adults and we tell everyone as adults. Yeah. Here's a scheduling link. Schedule it. What do you think our success ratio is? Maybe fucking 20%, 15% of people actually do it. I mean, I sent out 4 of them in the past. No, I sent out more than that. I must have sent out 10 or 20 in the past 2 to 3 months, and I got we haven't got any responses from those. People just don't want to fucking do it. I don't understand why. It's like we're not charging anything.
Yeah.
We're not. I tell everyone, this isn't a trap thing. We just want to hear your story. If you're pushing something, push it. It's content for us. You get to push your shit. What is the problem?
Exactly.
No one wants to do it, or no one understands that.
You know what?
Schedule it.
I think a lot of the issue is that this time of year, most folks want to be out fishing, and it's more about the time managing. Like, hey, when do I have such and such time? I had spoken with someone who I had been trying to get to book some time for a while. And they had, basically said, I just don't have the time. I just don't have the time. He's such and such. And then it was after last week I'd reached out again and I was like, yeah, I'm not sure if you listen to the show, but this week specifically, you'll get a good laugh out of it. I highly recommend it. And they said, they're like, oh, I listen. I listen probably a couple times a month, and that's where I was like, okay. I'm like, I would consider that a regular listener. So that kind of inspired this whole thing. I like to think that we offer plenty of content. I'm not too worried about, these summer months when we get, folks aren't around to necessarily do interviews and stuff. And, you know, sometimes it's just people get busy. So I totally understand. I mean, I schedule meetings for a living. Half of my job is scheduling meetings with people, you know, corporate clients and couples that are getting married and all this stuff, and trying to wrangle people. Like, it's easier to herd freaking rabid chickens, you know? It is.
Chickens get rabies?
Yeah. I mean, I guess they could.
How many pits are in a pair?
How many pits are in a pair? Yeah, Jeff is fucking great. Ellie says she's got some saltwater clients that she'd love to get them on. And Gravy says, I'll talk to my saltwater guy this weekend. I don't know nothing about the saltwater guy.
I don't know no saltwater guy, Gravy.
I don't know saltwater snakes. Oh my good Lord!
We should probably tell people what that's about, because we've been having a joke about that.
We
for a while with that.
We should.
If anyone's familiar with the classic Christmas movie, I said it, Home Alone. I know it doesn't have the lightning rod effect like Die Hard does, but there's a scene where what's the other fucking, not Joe Pesci? What's the other the Wet Bandit's name?
Oh,
what's his real name?
I forget what his name is now. I gotta look it up.
Yeah, whatever his name is.
Bandits.
He comes back in. Yeah, he goes, Marv, there's somebody in the house there. I don't know who it was. His voice sounded familiar.
Daniel Stern.
Said his name was Snakes. Huh?
Daniel Stern.
Daniel Stern goes, said his name was Snakes. And Joe Pesci has this look on his face like someone just fucking took a dump outside of his car, and he goes, Snakes. I don't know no snakes. And there is a color that Z-Man puts out that has a chartreuse belly and like a green pumpkin back, and it's got blue flecks in it. It's called Hot Snakes. So Bobby and I have been complete idiots about this for about a month now.
Yeah. I don't know nothing about those snakes.
Anytime. Like, hey, Bobby, who's coming to the Hendo's coming to trivia? Hendo's. I don't know Hendo's. Fucking. We're stupid.
Ridiculous, man.
God. Well, that's it for the survey. Any more comments or what?
Nope, nothing yet. Oh, and it's a split. Right now, it's a split. It was the majority do not fish tournaments. Now it is a split. It's 50-50 fish tournaments and 50-50 don't.
So, you know what we could do?
Yep.
Why don't we just focus the tournament section on shit that we're actually doing and see if that,
stirs some stuff up.
Reels it in a little bit. You know what I mean? Reels it in. See what I did there?
I like that.
So, Jigs and Bigs, Chronic Trips. I'll go over the Western. I mean, that's pretty much what I do anyways, right?
Yeah.
We can fold that into the week review and just leave it at that. I can kind of
keep it real concise.
You tell us, folks.
We'll play around with a couple of things. We'll come up with some stuff. But I think that about does it for our first segment. We're going to take a short break. And when we get back, guys, we got so much fuck this guy this week. So much. Like at the 0 hour, there was a good delivery. So we will see you after this short break. Don't go too far. We got more FTG coming up, and you're not going to want to miss it. We'll see you guys in about 60 seconds. Maybe 90.
Okay.
Jigs and Bigs wants to take a moment to say thank you to our partners for helping us continue to push the limits of our fishing adventures and bring you amazing long-form content. We want to thank Old Glory Outdoors in East Brookfield, Massachusetts. Old Glory has an amazing selection of fishing tackle, including 6th Sense, Guggen Baits, X-Zone Lures, Shimano, Daiwa, Luz, 13 Fishing, Arc Rods, and many more. Use promo code Jigs and Bigs at oldgloryoutdoors.com and in-store to save yourself some money and support the show. For all your premium kayak needs, we partner with Three Bells Outfitters, located along Smith Cove in Niantic, Connecticut. Three Bells is your go-to location for kayaks and accessories from Hobie, Native, Bonafide, Jackson, Yakutak, Naqua, Boondocks, Burley Pro, and many more. Financing options are available to upgrade you and your kayak fishing experience. White glove delivery service is also available. Visit threebellsoutfitters.com for more info, and don't forget to tell them that Jigs and Bigs sent you. When it comes to high-quality polarized sunglasses, we've partnered with Torres. They provide stylish sunglasses in a variety of frames that are light and fit comfortably on your face. The polarization cuts glare and allows you to see the whole picture, helping you identify what's below the water's surface. They have a 60-day, risk-free trial, lifetime warranty, and free shipping. Plus, you can save yourself 10% with the code JIGSandBIGS10 at checkout. Visit Toreg.com to check out their selection. That's www.torege.com. Again, we cannot thank our partners enough for their support. Please consider supporting them and supporting the show in the same process. Thanks.
Bobby and Sean now have a special presentation for us all. They'd like to give everyone just the tip.
Hi, Bobby. This one's mine this week.
Give it a go.
Hi. Snakes.
I don't know snakes.
I don't know snakes. Well, we wanted to get a little back to basics today. And with just a tip, we're just going to cover backing line. Okay? So as we know, we got three types of line. You got fluorocarbon. Well, three main types of line. I'm not going to get into copolymers or any of that shit, but you got braid, you got fluoro, and you've got mono. So you're going to want backing for a couple of them for two different reasons, okay?
Yep.
Monofilament straight on the spool. You don't need to use backing, use it straight on, but monofilament can be very valuable as backing itself.
Oh yeah.
What I do is, there's always recommendations out there to use old line as backing, and you can use fluoro as backing. There's nothing wrong with that, old fluoro. What you've got to be careful with mono, if that backing has been exposed to the sun, it might be a little weaker than something not. So what I do is, and I recommend everybody, go to your local Walmart. There's Walmart everywhere. They sell Trilene Big Game for what? Like 5 billion yards for like $8. Buy one, you'll have backing for the rest of your life. Okay. And in a pinch, if you buy the right size, you can actually, you can use that for some top water or whatever you need to use it for. Yeah. So what I do is I buy a big old spool of that and I hold on to it and I use it as backing. A little STF tip is use a different color backing than what your line color is. In the case of fluorocarbon, I know my fluoro is running low on the backing when I can see the backing. So I use like a green Big Game. The fluoro is clear, obviously. And when I start seeing the green, it's time to, cut it and put some more fluoro on. Let's start with, again, the mono. If you're using monofilament, run the whole thing monofilament. No big deal. It'll stick to the spool. If you have braid, if you're using it for a spinning reel or using it for a bait caster, braid does not start on spools well. It just slides all over the fucking place. You're gonna need backing for it. Okay, go ahead and grab yourself some Big Game, grab yourself some mono, whatever, put it on there. Even old fluoro is fine. You should be good to go. Fluoro's not going to get affected by the light. That's good to go on that. Now when it comes to fluoro, I use backing for a completely different reason. Fluoro is expensive as all hell. I put backing on there so I'm not wasting it and running it down to the end of the spool, where versus mono's not as expensive. You can run it down. You can still get a decent cast out of it, especially on spinning gear. When you're talking bait casters, you're not going to be able to cast as far if you run the whole thing with fluoro. You could. I run fluoro on mono just to save money, and I'm a lot more efficient with it. So by the time I get down to where I can still cast, but I can see the backing, I know it's time to just clip it and put new fluoro on. I'm just being more efficient with it instead of having all that extra fluoro on the bottom where it's difficult to cast, and now I still have to put more fluoro on and take all that shit off, and it's wasted.
Yeah.
That's pretty much it. You got anything to add on that? This is pretty simple. I just think a lot of people don't know why they're putting backing on. Why is it a big deal?
I think the biggest question that I've gotten from most people is how much backing should I put on?
It's different. So for the braid, because braid will come off real easy, but it's a thinner diameter, I'll tend to, I don't know, man. Sometimes I go back and forth. Like, I don't use it on spinning rods. So you're going to have more experience and opinion on that.
Yep.
I don't use braid at all on spinning rods. I use mono and I use fluoro. I do back the fluoro with mono on the spinning rods. But as far as like how much you put on there, I'll put less on spinning rods, and I'll put for braided lines, I'll put a lot more than I would for fluoro because the braid's thinner. So if I put equal amounts on of braid or equal amounts of backing on, let's say, because I use loose reels. So if I have the same model, which I generally keep the same model, just different gear ratios for my frog rod versus my jig rod, right? 20-pound fluoro, Seaguar and Vizex, go ahead and somebody can look up the diameter, is much thicker than the braid I use. So I put less backing on the fluoro, all right, where I can go out farther and still have the same amount of line on there.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Because you can wrap more of it on there. So if I were to put the same amount on, right, I still want my line to be about, an eighth of an inch or so to the edge of the spool. If I put the same amount of backing on, the fluoro could go to that marker and the braid won't even get there. So you have to put more on for braid if that's what you're doing. Is that a good answer? I hope somebody can decipher that bullshit that just fell out of my mouth.
I know, like the first time I ever used backing, I put like just a single layer enough so it would cover the spool, and then I started putting more and more. Then I would just put fill because I wanted to have plenty of line and not be like, oh, half the spool is backing after I've changed out my bait, say 24 times. Now I've, I got to respool because now I'm casting, 10 feet or whatever. I used to put as little as possible, but I have since found that by actually putting so that you maybe double or triple up that amount, so it adds a little bit of a cushion around, it softens up that spool. I don't know. It seems to be a better move overall, and I think even equally as important is knowing when to stop filling your spool, when it's I really do. I think that's something that a lot of people ignore, and they're just like, nope, I'm gonna put as much as I can on here, and
I mean the real answer is real nebulous of what type of line are you using, whether braid or fluoro, and how big is it? That's the how thick is it? What is the diameter of that line? That's going to dictate how much backing you put on there. And then it just becomes a matter of fine tuning it to cut down your waste. I hate to say that, I should, and I never do this, and I should. I kick myself every time. Every time I refill a spool, which isn't too often. It's month and a half. Maybe I might do it 2-3 times a year.
Yep.
I should be marking where my backing should go to with a black magic marker or something on the spool, and I never do it. And that's on me, but that's a way to do it.
Yeah.
So.
No, I think it's important, man. And it'll save you money in the long run. That's a good thing always,
especially with the prices of fluorocarbon. Holy shit.
Fluorocarbon, especially braid is expensive, but braid will last you season after season. It really will. Unless you're one of those types that's I just can't stand when it fades. I can't, Oh,
I don't worry about that.
Yeah, I don't worry about that either. It's okay, cool. It's just as long as it's not fraying on me or anything like that, I'm good to go.
And honestly, I found 2 years. I can get 2 years out of Seaguar and Vizex.
Yeah.
Fluorocarbon. That is the gold standard, in my opinion, of line. The shit I have hauled in with that 8-pound test is ridiculous.
Yep.
The carp,
the
bowfin, up at Oneida, that walleye up at Oneida, that was all 8-pound test. 20, I don't know how many pickerel over 20 inches I pulled in off that.
Yeah.
Pike. And then the 15-pound was at my biggest pike. It's amazing what that Seaguar and Vizex can do. I'm a fan and will be until they stop making it.
Yeah, fair enough. Well, are you ready for this?
Hold on. Before we start, let's tell everyone the story of how this came to be. We had the FTG that I talked about in round 1 there in segment 1 ready to go.
Yep.
And then right before you hit the record button, you were getting ready to do a countdown.
Just about to hit record, yeah.
You said, "Holy shit, we've got a message." And I said, "Well, let's QC the message." We did, and we were both fucking floored, and all the jig heads were floored too, I'm sure, because there was a lot of laughter. They got a preview of this. Everyone buckle up. This is vile.
Fuck that guy. Fuck that guy. Fuck that guy.
Hey, Bobby. Hey, Sean. I got an FTG for you guys. Made the trip down to Connecticut to fish the Three Bells Outfitters tournament. Turned out great, other than an old man in a John boat who was very curious about the kayak. And as he kept moving in to talk to me, I kept saying, I'm hard of hearing, I can't hear you. He kept moving in. He's moving into my spot where I was fishing. I head closer to try to head him off. That's when I realized this old guy's wearing nothing but his tighty whities. Not just nice, clean tighty whities. We're talking old, gray, dingy, the elastic barely holding. Yeah, fuck that guy. Oh, and normally I'd say fuck the lake lice guys, but today they seem to mess things up for Sean a little bit, so I actually beat him. So I'll give a thumbs up to those guys this time. Thanks.
I like how I caught some shrapnel out of that, too. There's a naked guy rowing around. I'm catching shrapnel. Thanks, Jay.
Oh, my God. Tighty whities, dude. Man, I'm telling you. Just, it never ceases to amaze me the things you run into on the water. I mean, honestly, I thought I lived in like a weird part of town, like just bumping into people, like especially when I lived in like East Hampton and Amherst, you bump into some weird ass people out there. But oh my God, you put yourself in a small boat and you open yourself up to all kinds of different input. It's bad. My God,
there are no rules on the water. Apparently, it's if you don't want to wear clothes, don't.
Yeah.
If you want to. Jesus, if you want to wear your dirty underwear, go for it.
Do what
if you want to pull over roadside because there's water and you want to take your clothes off and floss your taint with your shirt when you're done because it was up in a tree, go for it. What does it matter? It doesn't matter. There's no rules.
It doesn't.
Vietnam.
I want to go ahead and throw this out there. Lauren chimes in. She says, who is this? And it was
Jay Savely.
Yeah, Jay Savely.
Thank you, Jay.
That was great.
Not thanks for shit talking me, but thanks for the underwear guy. I appreciate him.
Oh, it's Ellie makes a good point. She says the water is very similar to airport rules. Yeah, it's like a third world country, man. It is. It is. It's dark. It's a dangerous place.
I think more bus station than airport these days. Airports have kind of gotten a little less crazy.
A little bit, but it's a different kind of crazy. Bus station is like textbook. Like boilerplate, crazy.
Yeah,
people talking to themselves.
Well, I was at a supermarket in North Carolina.
Yeah,
and I was getting ice or something and whatever, or maybe it was the fish taco recipe stuff I needed. And an attractive woman walked by me in a dress, and I'm like, "Wow, there's an attractive woman in a dress." And then I hear this. Little pitter patter of feet because she wasn't wearing fucking shoes in a supermarket. I'm like, all right, something's wrong.
She related to Cody?
Possibly.
Was she in the supermarket just to spackle the toilet?
Possibly. She was dropping kidney stones in there like it was they call her the gumball dispenser.
Ding, ding, ding. That's terrible. Terrible.
So, excellent FGG this week. I'm glad he saw it and not me.
Yeah, that's a win.
Fuck that. And fuck that guy.
Fuck that guy.
I don't know. Pretty simple. That's an easy one.
That's
I don't
really
think we need
easy.
much of a discussion.
I mean, at least there were Fruit of the Looms. It could be worse.
Oh, man.
Are you ready for some Dothrockiness?
Yeah.
Dothrocky roll.
Get this fucking image out of my head of this fucking guy in his rowboat. Jeez. All right, I hear drums. Okay. Where should I start today, Bobby? Why don't I start with recent? Let's go with...
let's do that.
Let's go with what happened today. So, Three Bells, trail stop number 4, Upper and Lower Moodus Reservoir, a.k.a. Nibblerville, Upper and Lower Nibblerville. We had, I'll start with fifth. Fifth was me, 62.25 inches. Do the math on that, folks. That's horrible. Fourth place, Robbie Munier. I hope I said your name right, Robbie. Robbie finished fourth, 63 3/4. Jay Savely, 64th, third place. Second, John Medina, my buddy, 67.5. And first place, Johnny Nunez, 67 3/4. That's what tournaments are about, folks. Even when you have a day where the nibblers are biting and nothing else is, and the lake lights are out, guys are in their underwear and rowboats, you put together a bag, you never know where it's going to finish up. And even though it was, some small bags today, people won. John Medina, with his second place finish, also got the lunker of the day, 15 inches. That's where we were at on these lakes. This was rough. This was underpants and a rowboat rough. This was bad. Yeah, it was rough. It was rough, but we did it. We're animals. We went out there and fished, and it was painful, but we did it. So from there, we had a tournament end, Bobby. We had a Jigs and Bigs tournament end.
Yeah, we did.
Okay? We got some stuff to talk about with this because it was there was some shit happened. Okay. Now this was my return to multi-species fishing tournaments. Right. I hadn't done the first couple. And what happened was I watched people do them, and I got very jealous and said, I want to do that. I want to play two.
Yeah, exactly.
So I played two. So Jigs and Bigs tournament last month had 24 people in it, okay? And I'm going to go with this first. With a clean sweep, the Triple Crown, first to 100, first to 200, first to 300, Brant Rowland is back, and he's pissed.
He is.
So he killed it. Brant Rowland, first to 1, first to 2, first to 3. All right. I'm going to make some notes here before I get into the top 5. Okay. First off, our guy Rory. Remember Rory? We talked about Rory down there in Florida kicking some ass?
Oh, yeah.
All right. Rory finished with 4 points. So there's his first. I wanted to make mention of him. So he put points up, dude. We talked about what
he put up more points than I did. He did. I put in 2 points. Yeah.
Yeah. You put up 2. He put up 4. So great job to him and great job to you, man. You didn't finish last. Look, God damn it. 0 points. Joe Brown. Who the fuck is that guy? So great job to Roy. Great job to you. A lot of names in between. Ellie put up 5. Derek put up 5. Nick Ringard and Nelson put up 6. I'll just keep going. Fuck it. Gravy 7. Brian Tonello put up 8. And then here's our top 5. Andrew Heath, 9 points. Then we get into double digits. Fourth place, Todd Sefton with 11, and 4 places paid out for this tournament.
Mm-hmm.
Third place, bit of a surprise. And this ended up being a last day. These 2 spots changed. Well, no, I'm sorry. These 2 spots were solidified. They had already changed the previous week. There was a tie, and the tie was broken. Third place, Jerry Multi-House. When was the last time I said that?
I know.
With 12 points. Second place, Sean the Fisherman, 13 points. And that tie was broken. We were at 13 apiece, Jerry and I.
Yep.
And Brant Rowland caught a perch that topped the category and bumped Jerry down a point. So we were tied, but I had the tiebreaker anyways. This just solidified it. So number 1, our June Jigs and Bigs champion, Brant Rowland, 16 points.
Nice job, Brant.
Yep. So we finalized that this week. We'll be getting the payments out this week and the prizes out to, the fucking Brant, because he won everything.
Yeah.
So there you go. Now let's move on to a current tournament. We have the Chronic Trips July tournament.
Yes, indeed.
I'm going to give the score from a couple. When did I do this? I think I did the judging on Friday or Saturday, whatever. I have not included this weekend. I want to make note of this because he was extraordinarily psyched, really pumped, and we're happy for him.
Yep.
First to 100 inches because he went out and kicked ass on the 4th of July. Gravy fishing.
That's awesome.
Yep. And then we'll talk top 3 right now because this tournament right now has 12 people in it and it's going to pay out 3 slots. Okay.
Yep.
Third place currently with 6 points. Again, I have not counted this weekend. I saw you caught a catfish, Gravy. Relax. Third place, 6 points, Gravy Fishing, Eric Graves. Second place, 7 points, Sean the Fisherman. And here's the big surprise. First place, 13 points, Jerry Multi-fucking House. So we still have 5 days to jump in on this.
Yep.
Anybody who wants to come on in, you can. Remember, saltwater counts too, and we have not seen a single saltwater entry yet.
Nothing.
So feel free to jump in, and the water's fine. There was one other thing I wanted to mention, Bobby, tournament stuff. What do we have? I forgot something. Where's our notes? Notes. Jigs and Bigs final. I covered that.
EKF. You can't forget that.
I can't, but I'm going to jump on something else first.
Okay.
Alongside the chronic trips being open until the 15th, I believe the 16th or 17th, the August Jigs and Bigs opens up for registration. So let's start planting that seed.
Yeah.
Okay. So we've got it down to a fucking science this year, folks. One wraps up registration, the other one starts. So get on it now. We have this weekend for anybody who's interested, who's in the Pioneer Valley or in New England, hell, or even just outside of it. Elite Kayak Fishing Tournament is going on this weekend, this coming weekend, Saturday. What's day Saturday? The 16th? 16th. Saturday the 16th, the entire length of the Connecticut River inside of Massachusetts and any water that can be reached from the Connecticut River without getting out of your boat, without transporting it over land. All right. So if there's a dried stream, that means you're walking your boat. You can't do that. But if the stream is flowing and you can paddle or push up it, go for it. Get on in on it, folks. A bunch of us are doing it. It's going to be a blast. The tournament's on Saturday, and then the after tournament awards ceremony is going to be at the I believe it's the Elks Lodge in Chicopee on Granby Road.
Yep.
So there we go. There's tournament stuff.
Friggin'
wedding
awesome,
is complete. Man. Many deaths. It's been a good wedding. Guy in his underwear in a boat. Yes.
Oh, Tighty Whities. God, that's going to haunt me.
Yep.
It's going to haunt me.
Lauren wants to jump in as a reminder. TBO, not the trifecta tournament that will be happening in place of the trifecta. Stuff like that counts towards chronic trips. I mean, I'll be putting some flatfish in there, hopefully a striper.
If you're in the chronic trips tournament, you absolutely owe it to yourself to jump into the TBO event that's happening the weekend of the 30th and get in there. And you got opportunity to catch some salty fishes and throw them in.
Salty fishes.
Salt fishes.
Gefalga fish.
Gefilte fish.
I don't know. Did I say that right?
Yeah, gefilte.
How about it? Yeah, that.
Yeah.
How many people did I just insult right now?
I know.
It's my bad.
So many people. You're never going to get gefilte up. Oh, God, I'm going to hell. Let's go ahead and just transition into it, guys. We're going to take a short break. When we get back here, we got some geeky stuff to talk about. Have you seen Stranger Things Season 4? We're going to kind of gush about it and talk. That and a little bit of Metallica right after this. Jigs and Bigs is your favorite fishing podcast, right? Why not show the world how much you love the show while directly supporting us? We have men's and ladies' shirts, hoodies, and a variety of hats. We even have a waterproof outdoor Bluetooth speaker so you can listen to your favorite podcast while out on the water if you like. Check out jigsandbigs.com/shop to visit the store and gear yourself up. If you really can't get enough of this show, consider becoming a jighead and joining our Patreon. It's a subscription that gives you exclusive access to recording sessions that allow you to engage with us as we record the show. We also have some exclusive content there just for our jigheads and even have some special promo codes. Space is limited, so join now at jigsandbigs.com. Finally, if you're local to our area in Western Massachusetts, consider checking out the Western Mass Fishing Report, posted weekly at northeastwildwoman.com. We have amazing contributors providing great content and info for local conditions and what's been going on and working recently. Jigs and Bigs, so much more than just two lightly roasted hippies trapped in the 90s arguing on the internet about fishing. Hey, what's up, guys? It is Tuesday morning, and we've got an interesting little segment here. This is sort of like, we should give it a catchy little name, Sean, because this isn't a regular interview segment here. We have a returning guest, which is ironic because we just talked about having returning guests on the show in our survey results. But we have Matt Thayer from Klondike Custom Creations here, and he's been on a couple of times to talk. We got to know his fishing style. We caught up with him recently this year, and he's back again. But he's got a topic that he wants to talk about and go over and kind of have a discussion with, and I think it's ideal because we haven't talked about it much on the show. We've kind of glazed over it a little bit. But in the fishing world, this conversation is everywhere. I think everybody's having it. So let's go ahead. We'll get right into it. First off, let's touch base with Matt. Matt, how are things since the last time we saw you?
What is going on, guys? I'm glad you had me on again.
Glad to have you, dude.
I'm surprised you keep letting me come out. Yeah, I'm surprised you guys let me keep coming back.
We've anointed you the king of Rhode Island, so we need
know.
you to spread the word to your people.
Well, that's okay.
All right.
It's definitely, it's a title that we threw out there, and you seem to be living up to it, so it's good. The conversation we're going to have is about electronics and how they change the game. And actually, Matt, those are the words that you put in when we scheduled this whole thing. And I think the way you wrote that is perfect. I think that says there's no flash there, because what we're really talking about at the end of the day is this new wave of graphing. This Live Scope, is the name that most people throw around there. It's got a handful of different names, handful of different products, but it's changing the face, good, bad, or ugly, and I'm ripping that off of Bass Geek, and I'll get to that in a moment. But it's changing fishing for everybody, and everybody's talking about this. Everybody's talking about the impact that it has on your own fishing, the impact that it has in a tournament setting, the impact that it has here or there. People complain about, getting to learn it, all this other stuff. Matt, let's start with your sort of opinion on it. Where do you stand with it?
So, the whole movement with electronics.
Yep.
I never experienced the paper graphs or the the color selector or any of the the flash units or anything like that.
The early primitive fish finders, like that stuff.
Exactly.
Yep.
So when I got into when I got off the bank fishing, and then on a boat, it was a lot of 2D. Down scan was kind of new. Side scan hadn't just came out. Mm-hmm. Side scan was prevalent when I got my boat.
Yep.
So I'm somewhat new to that whole electronic game. But yeah, so I'm not a huge fan of the electronic thing. I use my finder. I think I'm a hot shit because I have down scan on my front unit on my boat.
Yep.
Yeah. But which is my unit from on the front of my boat is from 2013. I think it's 2013. But it's I'm not a crazy big fan of where a lot of the electronics have gone today. Mm-hmm. For the local tournament scene, club scene, afternoon tournaments, everything like that, I'm not totally a fan of it, to tell you the truth.
I gotcha.
The professional, Bassmaster Opens, Bassmaster Elite Series, those guys are there to fish. They're there to fish. They're there to make money for their sponsors and their family. So I don't have, more power to those guys if they want to look at a 32 inch flat screen on the front of their boat.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, in the local scene, where it's a hobby to an extent.
Yep.
Yeah. I don't necessarily agree with it.
In your club that you generally fish with, or clubs, do you find that you have other people who fish larger scale tournaments that come into your club and enter that also have memberships or however you guys work it, where they enter in those tournaments? And is that where you're seeing it, or are you seeing like the Weekend Warrior just like getting into it?
I see it in both aspects. I work alongside like a few guys with the lure making stuff.
Yep.
That fish high end tournaments.
Yeah.
And then but they're somewhat local to all of us in New England.
Yeah.
Because we all fish a lot of the same stuff. A lot of the guys from Rhode Island travel to Mass, Connecticut, up north, and then so did you guys. But in my club, there is a couple of guys that they'll fish a couple of opens, and then one guy last year, he qualified to go to Lake Erie.
Mm-hmm.
And he fished for somebody. He was in the top qualifiers for New England.
Yep.
And he went and fished that. There's a couple of guys, and then the afternoon tournaments that I'll do between a bunch of us. There's a couple of guys that fish the TBF, the TBF trail, and they fish some MLF events. They fish some opens, stuff like that. So they're not totally pros, but they're
headed in that direction, sort of aimed that way. Yeah.
Yeah.
No, that makes sense.
So it's not like I'm not fishing against Paul Mueller or whatever down on Candlewood every week.
Yep.
But I'm fishing against guys that are, they're fishing these high level tournaments, and they could potentially, do well in these high level tournaments, qualifiers and all that kind of stuff.
Yep. And at that point, I'm sure for some of them, getting into this new phase of electronics is a lot of that is, to some extent, is keeping up with the Joneses. Where like, okay, well, hey, they're using this. I want to at least have a level playing field. So a couple of things recently, and actually, when you hit me up about this, were perfect. I recently had listened to, what's the name of that crappy podcast with the kid from New Jersey and that guy from Carolina.
Jigs and Bigs.
No. That's it. It's a cheap fabrication of Jigs and Bigs, if I'm not mistaken.
Okay.
Yeah. Bass and Dudes is what it is. But in all seriousness, Paul from Bass and Brews podcast, in their last episode, they were talking about live scope, and he was talking about how it equates in, when he's fishing his tournaments. And specifically, he mentioned like some specific structure. I don't know if it was a hump or a ledge or whatever it was, but he's talking about this, and he goes, he's like, you'll get, a handful of different guys. You'll get somebody who will show up and they'll like buzz over there and make a handful of casts, and they're just like, I'm out. And then you got some people that'll just sit there and park for a little while because they see fish on their live scope. And he's like, but he made a good point I never even thought of. He's like, it's very possible you're hanging on that one spot because you're throwing at a bunch of catfish, and you don't know until you start like cycling through there. And then just before we started this, I was going through my YouTube subscriptions, and I was on my page, and I saw that Bass Geek had put a new video out, I think last night. And I love the stuff Bass Geek has to say. He's got a great opinion, but he recently got into a live scope on his boat, and he did a video about the good, the bad, and the ugly. And he said kind of the same thing. He's just like, you don't necessarily know the quality of fish right away. Eventually, you're able to kind of tell, but you're still like species. A 17-inch catfish or a monster crappie or a bass is going to look, they're blips on a screen. Now, I've seen live scope myself, and personally, I don't know what the hell I'm looking at. In this video that he put out there, he actually shows a video clip where I think he's working a buzzbait or something across the top, and you can actually see that on the top line. And I understand the use of the tool because I think of it as a tool. But then again, I'm like, I want to be on the cutting edge of technology. I think technology is a fabulous thing, and I feel like we probably saw this or would have had this discussion. It was probably our parents, that generation that had this conversation when that first downscan was available. You know?
Yep.
Where it was sort of like,
Yep.
oh my God, it's like TV's going to ruin your brain, and now everybody's got screens in front of them constantly. I'm not saying that it didn't ruin our brains, or we haven't gotten dumber, but, it is what it is.
Let me jump in here. You know, when I first heard this conversation of, oh my God, something's hit the market that now every weekend warrior fisherman is going to be able to catch the bass that,
The pro should.
Yeah, that are meant for the pros or
Yep.
meant for the competitive angler. You know when I heard that conversation?
The Senko.
Yes, the Senko.
Yeah.
So, but here's the difference. Senkos are $8 a bag. And
It's true. It puts them in everybody's pocket.
Yeah, you can probably get to the cost of a live scope in the course of a year using Senkos, but obviously there's been enough imitators out there that are effective. That
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, exactly, for sure. And the thing with a lot of the 360 live scope, whatever, especially in a lot of the places that I fish locally, is you're not seeing the fish.
Yeah.
You're seeing the structure that they relate to.
Exactly.
So it's like for example, I fished a Wednesday nighter, which kind of hit me, it hit me hard in that tournament where about the whole electronics. Like this one guy, he just fished on the St. Lawrence and everything. He was actually a co-angler. He's got a $100,000 bass boat with a whole bunch of money on electronics on the front of his boat. But anyways, he's like, yeah, I found like a whole bunch of stumps out here. And I'm like, and I have fished this body of water more than everybody else that I was fishing against. Easily. I have put in more time than all these guys.
Yep.
And how the fuck am I supposed to know that there's stumps out there? Like, I had no idea that it was stumps. It's a rock, there's a whole bunch of rocks.
Yeah.
There's a whole bunch of grass. There's a whole bunch of grass lines. There's no deep water. It's like when the water's up high, you might see 8 feet,
Oh, all right.
But he's like, and he's like, oh yeah, there's a whole bunch of stumps over there. And I'm like, how the hell do you know that there's stumps there? Because he's got the 360.
Yeah. Can you differentiate that much between just like rocks that are laying, not like a rock pile or a big boulder or something? Can you differentiate enough between a stump? I suppose you probably could.
Oh God, yeah.
Bobby, did you see that video? It came out last week. Somebody had posted on Instagram of an alligator, perfect silhouette, top and bottom of the alligator, just sitting resting in about 10 feet of water.
No, I didn't see that.
It's phenomenal. Check that out.
That's wild.
I haven't seen that one, but I believe it.
Yeah.
But it's I've even been out with one of my buddies with just side scan on his boat on Candlewood.
Yeah.
And we were throwing Ned rigs and shit at tedders and augers and stuff for farm equipment on Candlewood. I'm like, that's some kind of a field plow, whether it be a York rake or whatever.
Yeah.
I'm like, but it was like, that's what you were throwing at.
Huh.
And it's like, you could tell exactly what it was, and that was just on side skin.
Yeah, that's wild.
So, Matt, to talk about what you just bring up, to give another example, and this is in the kayak world, I might get the details wrong on this. This is, again, hearsay and what I've heard. So last year on Winnipesaukee, right?
Yeah.
Yep.
I believe Jake Angelis won it. Jake's a deep water fisherman. Jake, with his live scope, was able to find bass around no structure, hovering above the thermocline at 40 feet in like 70 to 100 feet of water, chasing around balls of smelt. And that's how he got his fish.
Yep.
Like,
exactly.
Live scope helps you figure out places where fish are hanging out that no one would have even thought of or would have even thought of to look.
Yeah.
But that makes it clear. Now, with my experience of it, the one time Loaded Potato has it on his boat.
Yep.
And he and I were out doing a little, I can't remember if it was jigs and bigs or chronic trips. I think it was chronic trips last year. And I needed a pike. We went up to a Berkshire lake with some pike in it. And I was able to watch a bait ball like evading a predator. It was amazing to watch in real time that the bait ball was moving like that.
Oh, yeah.
And the predator came up behind it. Was a 20-something inch pike, which I did catch because I put a lure right in front of it. I was able to see that. Now, what I've always said with traditional sonar, down scan, side scan, I try not to get locked in. I actually think I use it a little bit differently than everyone else because I try not to get locked in on, oh God, I just went over a fish. I've got to turn around and cast that.
Yes. I'm the same way.
I might make a little check in my brain for come back later, but what I use that for is to determine what is down there, what are the fish sitting on, and that's where that clear view helps me out, I think, because I can see stumps a lot better than you can with traditional sonar.
Yep.
Helps clear that up. And there is that risk of if you have anything, whether it's traditional sonar or whatever, up through the newest technology, of getting stuck and not looking at the bigger picture and trying to get one or two fish. So that's always a danger. But that being said, when what we see in the kayak world, and this was my complaint at the EKF, KBF, and Messalonsky, was if you've got someone who has that tool and already has a high level of fishing ability, it gets real dangerous real quick. You don't. I mean, I don't. Again,
exactly.
I'm never going to go back to that word advantage. It's just another piece. It's another piece of.
It's
the puzzle.
a tool. Yeah.
It's another piece of the puzzle.
And
but that's a pay to play kind of thing. You know.
Exactly. Exactly. So. But there are people out there willing to risk that pay.
Yeah.
Because of the payouts for the tournaments. Now, what that's going to do is, I was not the only person. And Matt, it sounds like you're doing it. You're going through it in the big boat world. But I was not the only person that went to that tournament and said, okay, so aside from the fact that this stuff exists, there were people out there acting as teams, which is not, it's not right. You shouldn't do that.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
And when you see two experienced anglers buzzing around each other in figure eights, trying to figure out fish and picking them off, now things get way out of control. Now it's like, okay, now I'm fishing against a team of these assholes. Like, I'm good. Like, I am right now. The cost of that stuff is too much for me, which means I have a decision to make. Do I want to pay for that and try to compete in these high level tournaments, which the competition's up there, the chances of winning are slimmer, and the costs for getting to and from are much more expensive.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Exactly.
Yeah. Or do I want to pull back, stay with my local trails, occasionally fish a bigger tournament if it's someplace I really like or whatever? It gives me the freedom to do that and know that going in that, hey, I'm up against this and the chances of winning are small, but I feel I can bring something to the table because I have experience at this particular water. You know what I mean? That's where a lot of people, I think, are at. And it's not like it's going from a traditional sonar with a couple extra features, like mine has GPS and clear view, to going to like Nelson's, which has side scan. Right. Like, it's not a couple $100 or less than $1,000 jump. We're talking about the price of a whole nother kayak. and
exactly.
Yeah.
And for bass boats, you're already paying insurance. You're already paying. You might be paying the boat off still. There's all these other things. Do you want to attach more to that and get,
But again, like, and just to throw this out there for reference, like, there's a certain, like, I love that you said, like, it's a risk, because I use a different word for it, and risk is involved there. It's an investment. If you want to make that investment and you want to stand, because for some of these guys, I have to think that some of these tournament anglers, be it a big boat or a kayak or whatever the situation might be, some of these anglers are looking at this and they're saying, like, holy shit, this is what's happening in the field. Do I try to stay in it by keeping myself up on par with what everybody else is using, or where the trend is going? Do I keep up to date with technology, or do I just give up tournament fishing because it's too expensive for me? You know what I mean?
Tournament fishing at that level. Maybe you go from a regional tournament to something local, or maybe something local to just a Wednesday or Thursday nighter.
Now, how do you guys feel about this potentially? Because this is eventually, that's the thing. It's so tricky with investments, because you never know what's in somebody's head, what they're willing to put up. I mean, shit, I've seen people spend ludicrous amounts of money on, like, campers and all kinds of shit like that when they have no business making that level of investment whatsoever. You know what I'm saying? But, like, you don't know where their head is at that time, so where they're going to do that. So do you think that this is going to start to infiltrate on that lower tier of tournament, of competition?
Already seen
it. I kind of expected that.
But see,
that's
the thing...
Go ahead, Sean.
Yeah, where I'm looking at it is I I don't know how many people. I think a lot of people will say the word investment.
Yeah.
But they're not. They're saying the word investment, and they might as well say fucking
burning money.
Plumbus. Yeah. No, it's a hobby, and they're trying to keep up with the competition.
The Joneses. Yeah.
They're nobody's. I bet if any number of people actually considered it an investment and wrote it down like their fishing was a business.
Yeah.
They'd all be out of business because nobody's making money on this. Like
no,
very
nobody's.
few people are doing it.
Yeah.
So I mean, like when we talk about it being an investment, that's almost like comparing it to being an investment in the stock market. But nobody's going to say, "I'm just going to throw X amount of money or $5,000 in the stock market." Fuck it. They're going to watch it and try to make it grow. And I don't think that happens. I think
there's
more
a lot of those
fuck
it people out there.
Yeah, I think there's a lot of. This guy's got it. I have to compete.
Yeah, there are.
And you know,
it's and it's a recreational thing,
Yep.
and just like you were saying, it goes back to like even when I played like Little League baseball, oh yeah, so and so has this bat and this DeMarini and that stealth and whatever.
Yep.
This Italian leather glove. But a rec baseball, even high school, you're not. Recreational, say you're paying to play recreational baseball.
Yeah.
In Little League, it's all that kind of deal.
Mm-hmm.
And that's kind of how it is with the in the tournament scene as well.
Mm-hmm.
And like Sean said, you're not making any money on it. Shit, even the pros, they don't make the money at the tournament. They make their money with their sponsors, and the products that they push and the videos that they make on certain techniques or seminars that they do or whatever.
It's such a weird situation because in order to, I think ultimately everybody wants to somehow make their living fishing at some point or another. Wouldn't that be like just the dream? I hear it all the time, but it's so crazy that in order to actually make that happen, like it's not an easy road, like even if you're starting at the bottom, you're just like, you have to kind of, to get to that level, you've got to be able to play in that court,
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. It's just wild.
It's the absolute truth.
And then you got to think about too, because this is relatively new technology. In 5 years, given taking like inflation and everything else out of it, the cost of this technology, as things get more and more high tech, whatever the next phase is, it's going to get easier to acquire. So I think we're going to see this of someday on like every boat.
Right.
You know what I mean?
More than likely.
Yeah.
More than likely, yeah.
If nothing else, you're going to see these new models of fish finders start to include different versions, right there on it. Like it'll be an add-on to what's already there. So I think eventually we're going to see that happen. And then we're going to have a new conversation about, laser target, bass fish finders or something, whatever.
Well, that's the thing is I've had this conversation with some of my buddies and everything,
Mm-hmm.
and they're like, "Oh yeah, well, Matt, how far can it go? There's going to be the only thing that they can do is have cameras on the fish." And I said, "No," and that's not the fact. Is like you kind of said, the whole laser thing, or whatever.
AI, think about it.
Exactly. AI. It can get down to the baits and the lures and the things that you throw in the water. It can and then so my example is my grandfather. He's an electrical engineer.
Yep.
He worked for Mystic Seaport underwater exploration, and then he worked for URI directly under Robert Ballard that found the Titanic.
Oh, okay.
So they had side scan technology in the 80s.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. It just wasn't available like on a consumer level.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So there's so much technology in the sonar world that we don't know about, or stronger sonar, whatever. They're able to pull 360 view from miles and miles down in the ocean. So it's all subject to change within the next 5 years, and I wouldn't doubt it I wouldn't be surprised if I saw a shallow water 360 come out shit at ICAST in a couple of weeks or whatever it is, a week, or a shallow water 360 where you could point that thing at a 100-foot by 100-foot lily pad field and say, yeah, there's 70 bluegill, 3 bass, and 20 pickerel in there.
Yeah.
That's just kind of what the technology is coming to. But yeah, that and then again, it's a pay to play kind of scenario. But like you had asked, that tournament I was talking about that really made me think of this topic of how it's changing the game. That was just a Wednesday night deal.
Yep.
But the guy that came in first, he has 316 live scope. He's got the Lowrance Ghost on the front. He's got $20,000 worth of electronics on his boat. The guy that got second, he has side scan on both of his units, but he was able to determine hard grass lines throughout. He was able to work a grass line, half a mile down the lake.
Yeah,
basically.
Yeah.
So, which you can do on a regular 2D sonar.
Yep.
But it's harder. it's easier with the side scan unit.
Yeah, exactly.
So.
No, that makes sense.
And then and then to bring back like what Sean said, going back to, should I slow down in this tournament game if I don't want to pay to play? Do I want to learn the whole new aspect of all these electronics?
Yep.
Or do I want to just fish? So, because that's kind of what I go back and forth with,
No, absolutely. It's freaking. It is. It's nuts. It is nuts. I remember the first time like I said. I mean, I've seen, videos, but I'm still brand new to electronics now. I'm really only starting to get into the Lowrance unit that I'm using and see like all the features that it's got and kind of figure out how to even read it. So to me, I'm way behind on all this technology. But when I've seen, videos where people are either talking about it or having a discussion, anytime that there's some kind of a screenshot, like you're right, you can see exactly what it is that you're looking at under there. And I think that if there's one thing that I think has the biggest impact, and it's one of the things that was said in the Bass Geek video, it's that what you're starting to see is some of these people are starting to realize that things that they thought they knew about bass behavior are not necessarily exactly right on. That you're able to find and see in real time those reactions. And I think that this is an amazing tool to, if for nothing else, like consider like with pre-fishing, you don't, a bass is reacting to a bait. You don't even have to hook that bass, know? Like it gives you a little bit of insight based on the reaction of what's happening in real time. So it's like it's an amazing tool. I think long term, like Sean made a great point where people get hung up on a spot and they're just fishing that one spot, trying to catch, one or two that are gonna come off of that one area. But like for me, I think this has the potential to create much better if you're using it the right way and for the right as a tool and you're learning from it. You could have amazing anglers out on the water that are going to learn new tips, and the education could get that much more too. We might actually learn more about what's happening with fish than we previously, made the assumptions based on, you can tell that it came at it from this angle because of where the hooks are or such and such. Now you actually see the reaction.
Mm-hmm. Well, and then like you bring up pre-fishing.
Yep.
That honestly comes into play with the kayak series. I would think is if somebody has a bass boat with all that electronics, all those electronics on there that they can't put on their kayak, they can go pre-fish on the bass boat and plug in GPS coordinates to their kayak.
Already being done.
Happening.
Of course.
Yeah.
Of course. Yeah, so I mean, and I know a lot of these guys in the kayak leagues and stuff. They go pre-fish with their bass boat.
Yep.
So it's like that's just another thing. It's like, come on, you're going out there with the kayak, and it's a lower point of entry. Yet you got to have a kayak and a bass boat now.
Yeah.
You know.
Exactly.
Well, a lot of kayak leagues now are actually making they're acknowledging that you can do that, but you can't do it up to like 2 weeks or a week in advance.
Mm-hmm.
So the pre-fishing in a big boat shuts off well before pre-fishing in a kayak. That being said, it can still help on certain bodies of water at certain times of the year.
Yeah.
But like if you feel like this example, this weekend's EKF event, if somebody went out and fished that last week before the cutoff, good luck. It's a river. It's smallmouth. Good luck.
Yeah.
You might find some again, but they're smallmouth. They move.
Exactly.
So it kind of nullifies that in certain bodies of water, but others, it might not.
It's
you're absolutely right, Sean.
It is. It is nuts. So when are we going to go get our live scope units, boys?
Well, I'm waiting for you guys to buy me one.
I'm going to wait till the price comes down to under $500 for the whole unit. So never for me.
For all of it? There you go.
So never.
There you go.
Exactly. So yeah. And that's kind of the thing. It's like I was talking to one of my a friend of mine, and he's my buddy another one of my buddies. They calls him one of the old hats around that that are still fishing and everything.
Yeah.
And this dude, he fishes. To quote Retro Bassin on YouTube.
Yeah.
He fishes it old school a lot of the time. He doesn't turn his units on or anything. But it's like he's a hardcore shallow guy. Anything like 6 foot and under is his style.
That's his bread and butter. That's kind of like me.
Exactly. Yeah, and that's how a lot of guys are.
Yeah.
And then like you can look at like Bill Lowen on the circuit. He's a shallow water guy. And he throws a lot of smaller stuff. He consistently comes in with a limit. He always qualifies for the classic.
Yeah.
He doesn't win a lot. He comes in high in places just because he's consistent.
Yeah. But
my friend Bob, he's like, if there's any hint of a shallow water bite, he's gonna hurt in a tournament.
Yeah.
If there's like a shallow bite that can be turned into a pattern, he's gonna hurt you.
Sure. Sure.
But you got other buddies, and a few of my other friends. If there's a drop shot bite offshore, they're gonna smoke.
They're gonna crush it. Yeah.
Or if there's even a hint of it, like a tough day, but there's a hint of a offshore drop shot bite, they're gonna hurt you.
Yep.
That's just kind of how it is. But like my friend Bob was telling me, he's like, oh yeah, I don't even turn my units on, this and that. And it's like, Bob, a lot of the times you don't perform a lot come summertime, come whatever, when there's not a shallow water bite to be had to an extent. So that's
it's so funny too, because like I've started recently, I mean partially just to conserve battery, but I've been shutting my units off only because I know the body of water that I fish doesn't see a lot of definitely doesn't see a lot of bass boats on it. Sees some kayaks, but a lot more wreck kayaks than fishing kayaks.
Yep.
And of those, what I've seen, very few are equipped with electronics that I've been able to see. So I'm thinking that those fish are probably a little bit more easily spooked by sonar than some other bodies of water where it's, they're getting hammered by it all the time. Like, like a Congamond locally is just getting hammered with fish finders constantly. Something like that. So I've shut it off, and I've actually noticed a little bit of a difference. I've taken notes, and I'm like, maybe it's just coincidence, but I've been fishing really, really shallow most of the spring until now. For the most part, I don't think I've caught anything really what would be deep in that one pond. But and even when we were in Maryland, same thing. I was fishing super shallow. Up undercover for everything, and that was where I was getting all. And at that point, I had shut my electronics off. That was one of the things, Sean, that I did when we got up into that channel where I caught that yellow perch, and that was in my mind. I was like, "Oh shit!" Because when I made that turn into that channel, I noticed that my battery is starting to get low on my electronics, and I'm like, I want to save some so when the tide starts going out, I don't roll up on one of these giant mud banks and I'm stuck. I want to have my depth finder for that.
Yep.
And I shut it off, and I noticed, I was like, oh, shit, really? Okay. And then I happened to catch another one in the main river, and I wish I could say that came into play. Actually, when we came back, I did have the sonar on, so maybe there is something to that.
Well, I find a lot of too when you turn that fish finder off, you're fishing your strengths. You know, you're counting on what you know.
Yeah.
So your confidence stuff.
It's funny. When it comes to using my electronics, I don't ever rely on them for anything other than knowing if I'm going over weeds and I need to pull the prop up and paddle.
Yep.
Like, that's kind of like a lot of the times that's how I'll use it, or I'll use it just to define, like if I can find ledges or something like that, if I'm looking for that. But it's not even, it's more of like oh wow, I never noticed that. I'm going to remember this now and I'll drop a pin. So if I need to, I can go back to it and see if there's anything there.
I gotcha.
I don't really. It's so weird. Like someone once told me, they're just like, yeah, people call them fish finders, but that's not what they are. It's more like about, like you said, like looking at the structure. And I think that there's a shitload of value, both for like not running into super shallow water that you're gonna get stuck in river mud or something like that, and then also finding some stuff that might hold fish under different situations. Like if they're finding like, okay, I normally fish shallow here and here's access to deep water, this starts to make sense. You can put the puzzle together.
Mm-hmm.
You know how
go ahead, go right ahead, Sean.
No, you're first. You started. I interrupted you.
Oh, okay. Yeah, so that kind of, going back to confidence stuff.
Yep.
I'll find, I throw my finders on, and then sometimes I just get pissed off at them. Cause it's like, okay, I'm going to cover water with, and I'm just going to go faster. I'm going to keep moving. I'm going to throw a spinnerbait, whatever, or I'm going to go flip trees.
Yep.
Just cause that's what I need to do. This isn't working. So I'm going to go do my strength. There's something to be said about that.
Sure.
But there's something to be said about flipping on the 360 to go look at fish to say, okay, so I'm going to go cover water in that area, not this area,
Yeah, so exactly.
There's a whole bunch of different scenarios too. And then I feel as though it actually comes down to the mental aspect, like of tournament fishing and everything like that.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, how am I going to compete with that guy with $20,000 of electronics on his boat when I have $500? Or his electronics are worth more than my boat.
Yep.
So it's like that comes down to it too, where you might be able to outfish that guy in that certain body of water, but
definitely
your head gets spun out because he's got fish vision and I don't.
Yep.
So
it's true. Just remember, he could be throwing that jig at a catfish.
Exactly.
Yep,
that's the truth.
Y'all, look.
What I was gonna jump in with real quick was when we talk about even traditional sonar and just using traditional sonar, right?
Yeah.
I've got a few lakes, and actually it's more than a few now. Even the other day I was focusing on it yesterday during the Three Bells tournament.
Mm-hmm.
When you have, I've said it before, when I feel that when you have a body of water that gets recreational use, all right?
Yeah.
And there's birds of prey, the fish will, in my opinion, I think I've caught enough fish doing this that I feel strongly enough about this theory. The fish will back away from shallower water, especially, in the summer when they're not worried about getting up there and breeding.
Yeah.
But they'll back away just to a point where I always look at it as, and Bobby, actually, you saw this with
firsthand. Yep. I know exactly what you're talking about.
I backed away from the shore just so I couldn't see the bottom. If I can't see the bottom, it's probably too deep for an osprey to smash down through it, or a pelican or whatever other birds are around. And when on one particular lake last year, I took Chris DeBari out with me.
Yep.
And I focused in on this one line. I said, Chris, you've got a traditional sonar in the boat, in my spare kayak. I said, point into the wind, stay between 8 and 10 feet deep. Do not let yourself stray. If you get to 7 feet deep, go deeper. If you get to 11 feet deep, go shallower.
Yep.
And that's your line. That stay in between 8 and 10 and cast straight ahead of you. And he succeeded. He caught a couple of smallmouth. But that's with no structure. There was nothing there, just sand. And I caught maybe some gravel bottom, but not no rocks, no timber, no weeds.
Yep.
And that's what I focused on. So I think when you take a newer technology like the live scope, any forward-facing sonar, really,
Yep.
and someone is able to recognize some sort of pattern like that, but using that new technology, that's when, if you want to compete at that level, you might have to think about keeping up with the Joneses. You know what I mean? Like,
Definitely.
I agree. Absolutely.
I mean, I can't. I'm not going to drop their names. I don't want to start a fight on this.
Yeah, exactly.
I really don't.
Yeah.
But there's a couple. There's a couple of anglers that we saw in a major tournament, doing figure eights over humps, like with their live scope, not even casting, just doing figure eights, looking for fish, eliminating water, and just staying in a small area, but working together.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, off the record, myself and a couple other people have renamed them the Jitterbug or the Whirligig brothers, because they look like fucking whirligig beetles on the surface of the water, just zipping around randomly. But I mean, that's what you're up against. You know, in the kayak world, I don't know how cooperative the bass fishing world is. Probably not as much. Or the big boat world, excuse me, not the bass fishing world, but the big boat world is probably not as cooperative in some of these single events or whatever. But I mean, it's a whole new world. Like, not only are you dealing with a really, really high level angler, but then who has these tools that they know how to use, and then if they're working as a team, good God, just like, you know, what is it worth dumping your money into? That's the question that everybody's going to be faced with. You know,
I've seen it happen for sure. Like, in different things where two guys are trying to qualify to go to a larger body of water or something, and this guy needs at least a third place finish, you know, and this guy's on the fish. I've seen that happen plenty of times. And that's what's happening, is guys are working together on different things. You know, and things can spiral out of control pretty quick, you know, for a lot of the other guys that they don't have the tools that those other guys do.
Mm-hmm.
So it has become very cooperative.
And what that's gonna do is it's gonna drive the lower end anglers out or keep them cycling in, so they constantly have to replenish those ranks, because if there's no people in the tournament, there's no
payout.
Yeah,
exactly. That's exactly right. And all these people on stuff talk about growing the sport, growing the sport. But you got to be growing your wallet at the same time.
That goes without saying. Yeah.
So, you know, we got to grow the sport, but, you know, you got Tom, Dick, and Harry out there on one grass hump, you know, sharing the whole thing because they're sitting in the same spot on spot lock because they're on the fish. You know?
I think for what it's worth, Sean, I was just, you know, you were making the comparison between kayak fishing, you know, the Whirligig brothers, and, like, you know, having front-facing sonar on a kayak versus when you think about, like, in a big boat scenario. Number one, you could have two anglers on a big boat, right? So there's a big difference there. But also just the ability to cover that water and, like, look and scan an area real quick. Like, I don't know very many people who have a screen for their front-facing sonar in the where they can just idle around, you know, behind the console. I don't, you know, most times you're seeing that graph right up at the front by the trolling motor. So, I mean, are we going to see that happen where they're going to put a second screen in so that way they can idle around and cover a little bit more water quicker instead of killing their batteries? You know,
I bet you that'll happen.
Yeah.
Look at
wait a minute. I've seen plenty of anglers with dual screens mounted on their dash.
On their
dash.
Are they using front facing sonar? On
dual screen. My guess is yes. Dual screens above the steering wheel, and dual screens at the trolling motor.
Oh, all right, okay. I mean, obviously, it makes sense to have one up by the trolling motor, and that's where you're primarily going to think to use it, so that you could actively be fishing while you're there. But yeah, I haven't seen anybody with it on display. I haven't seen it there yet. So, but I mean,
I guess it just matters where the transducer is mounted, because if it's mounted on the trolling motor, it doesn't make a lot of sense to have one behind you.
No, exactly.
You know, because the transducer won't be in the water when you got the motor in. But
Yeah.
That's a big. But I have seen dual monitors above, and my guess is, if they're not mounted on the trolling motor, again, I don't know enough about the transducer.
Yeah.
Can it be mounted?
You have there's a lot of guys that'll have one on their console, on the dash that can spin around. They're on the front, so they can see what's going on in the front of the boat, what's going on in the back of the boat. Granted, with a 360, you don't need to do that necessarily.
Yeah.
But you could have 360 running in the front, and then you could have 2D in the back, or down scan in the back, seeing what's cruising underneath, while 360 is spinning around in the front. But yeah, I think it was on. I don't know if it was on Instagram or TikTok. There was one guy, and he literally had 6 units on that boat. He had 3 on the console, and 3 on the trolling motor.
Jesus,
more than
Jesus
what
Christ.
the pros run. Yeah, I know. I'll have to try to find it to send it to you guys. I know I sent it to a couple of people.
Did any of you guys have? I know. I'm sure Sean hadn't seen this, but John B had put a video together one day, just kind of poking fun at the whole front-facing sonar stuff, and he built a custom rack for a 32 or a 43-inch television, and he put it up on there and hooked it up to his live scope, and he's just tooling around this giant thing, and it was hilarious. And of course, there's people pulling up to him and they're saying man, that is crazy. I've never seen electronics like that on a boat. That is absolutely wild.
That's funny. I have seen I've seen him do that, but I haven't seen that whole video. That's funny.
It's pretty good. I highly recommend it. He's a funny kid, dude. I like that.
Yeah. That's hilarious.
Yeah, I mean, Jesus. I can't imagine being surrounded by that much. It feels like an arcade at that point. You're not in the great outdoors.
Yeah, you're not fishing. And that's a lot of what I think about it too. It's do I want to learn? Do I want to sit there and learn about all these electronics, or do I want to fish? It's I want to learn more about the actual fishing, not reading the screen. But yeah, like you just said, it's hardly the great outdoors. You're literally video game fishing.
And I get, I understand. There's a time and a place for it. It's a tool. I mean, I'm not giving anybody a hard time. I just think it's funny.
Right. Absolutely.
Oh, goodness.
And then there's the guy. He was a pro. I can't remember what circuit he fished on, but Randy Blockett.
Oh,
yeah. Intuitive.
Oh, he hates it.
Bass fishing, I think.
Yeah, intuitive
he
fisherman.
Can't stand it.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. Yeah. There's a lot of things that Randy can't stand. Let's be honest.
Oh yeah. That's the truth.
Braid de Floro. He cannot stand Braid de Floro in any capacity.
Yeah, right. That one gets. I'm okay, whatever, dude.
Yep.
I agree with things that he says, and then I disagree with it. That whole Braid de Floro.
Yeah.
It's have you ever thrown a drop shot on straight fluorocarbon? I haven't, because it sounds terrible.
I have, and that's the only success I've ever had with the drop shot.
Yeah. Well, I mean,
no kidding.
Yeah, he doesn't use Braid de Floro either.
I don't use braid on spinning rods at all.
No way, really?
Yeah. Except for my inshores, and it's 20 or 40.
No, I run straight. I run straight mono on my Surfcast and stuff.
Yeah. I found the braid's good for that. I like using it there, but I don't use braid on either my spinning. I got one mono and one straight fluoro. That's it.
No kidding.
Yep.
Oh man, that sounds terrible.
Why terrible?
No, it sounds like line twist like crazy.
Not if you spool it on right. And I very rarely get line twists.
You don't get line. Well, you don't throw a drop shot.
We could talk about that.
Well, we have, but yeah,
we could talk that I may or may not be experimenting in the fucking dark arts, but
he's found the dark web. We'll say that.
Yeah, he has
the dark
drank
web
the drop shot Kool-Aid.
Well, no, I have not. I'm not going to go that far. You know what?
It's one of those, you're putting your chocolate in my peanut butter. You're getting your peanut butter in my chocolate kind of situation.
Let's put it this way. If I'm fooling around with the dark arts, there has been no impact whatsoever on any of my tournament fishing. I'm catching everything still with Ned rigs.
Yeah.
Yep.
You know what I mean? So if I'm fooling around with it, it's not going anywhere yet.
Yeah.
But,
Yeah. Now, and it's funny because, like, it's like you talk about the drop shot, and I catch more fish on the drop shot than the Ned rig.
For a while, I was in that same boat, and then I don't know, I kind of will use them. I don't want to say interchangeably, but I have my comfort level with each is about equal.
Yep.
I generally just like a drop shot in more of like a deeper setting, or for like super finicky bass, like really like when I drop shot, it's super subtle.
Well, I throw the drop shot in some shallow stuff, 3 feet, Yeah,
but, and usually that's when I'm throwing a Ned. Yeah,
and I picked up the Ned more just because, honestly, listening to you guys, the amount of fish that you talk about catching on the Ned, it's like I got to start throwing this thing more. So, you got me drinking the Ned rig Kool-Aid now.
Ned rig Kool-Aid, it's good stuff. It's good. You make it in those pitchers that have the little plunger on the top, the lid that goes like from the 80s.
Yep,
that's what you do. Yep. You make all the Kool-Aid in there. Freaking right. Unreal. Matt, this was great. This is awesome. I like this kind of conversation. Do I think that we necessarily landed on a solution or anything? No, I don't think that we need to. I think that
exactly.
Ultimately, like, people are going to use or, invest the money or gamble it away or light it on fire in the parking lot of Bass Pro, whatever they're doing with it. I feel like they're going to make the decision they want to with electronics on their own. And, if it ultimately helps them, if they're getting on new fish, then fantastic. If they're, in a tournament situation and they're catching really, really big crappie, I'm proud of you. I mean, it happens.
Yep.
Oh, that's goodness. Right. My God. Anything new with Klondike? You have anything, coming down the pipe that anybody should keep an eye out on? Any special stuff?
I don't have anything too special. Just try to keep me in business, guys. That would be great.
Hell yeah.
I would. That's my biggest thing. I don't have anything necessarily new coming out. I did just start messing around with some glide bait stuff.
Nice.
So,
ooh, nice.
I have. I haven't. I've tried to make them before, and then this is my first successful round of actually making successful glide baits. So
that's awesome. Man.
There may be, a few of those hopping around the social medias that I made. But yeah, there's nothing too new, nothing too new and exciting for sure. But yeah, just help me keep in business. I enjoy doing it, but if people don't buy anything from me, I can't keep doing it.
No, for sure, man. Well, we gotta. We're talking actually in this episode. We had mentioned that. One of my focuses right now is like just traveling, just getting out, and next year especially. But I'm going to try to squeeze in as many trips as I can, and do a combination: go out and fish for a bit, truck camp, and then record a podcast with the people that I was out fishing with. So we should make that happen sometime.
I would like that a lot. I got a couple of places that I'd like to bring you for sure.
Yeah, we should definitely do that. I think it'd be awesome. In fact, when we record, you and I, we can do a coffee milk blind taste test.
That's right.
Yeah, I think it'll be awesome. It'll be the most Rhode Island episode ever.
Yeah, right. Yeah, that would be awesome. And then Mr. Lemon versus Dell's Lemonade.
Oh shit! I love it. Sign me up. Sign me up. How's the cheesecake? How's the cheesesteak game down there?
The cheesesteak game.
I'm on a mission.
The cheesesteak game. People think that the cheesesteak game is good at Subway down here.
You've said it all. Wow. Oh. Hang on.
That's not me. That is not me.
No, absolutely. But yeah, you make a good point. My goodness. My goodness.
Yeah, they gotta get the cheesesteak game has to get a little bit more north or a little bit more south for a lot of these folks around Rhode Island.
I hear you. After we left Maryland, I've just been on a mission to find a cheesesteak or a steak and cheese is locally. People get pissed when you use the term cheesesteak up here. To find something that's on par with the gas station delight that I enjoyed in Crumpton, and so far nothing's come close. Nothing, and it's all the weakest link is the bread. It's the weakest link. Do better, Western Massachusetts. Do better.
That's funny.
Oh,
yeah, that honestly sounds very good. A nice gas station cheesecake. I mean cheesecake. I sound like you now.
Now
Cheesesteak.
Exactly. It's catchy. Friggin'
yeah,
A,
that
man.
sounds really good.
Nice.
Bobby roast beef, Matt Thayer. the steak and cake weekend.
Steak and cake,
baby. That's what Bobby and I got to say when we catch fish now. Steak and cake.
Steak and cake, baby.
Steak and cake. You hear across the river, steak and cake, bitch.
That's right.
Oh God, I'm crying. It's awesome. Oh, this is great, fellas. I'm gonna go ahead and edit this show, and we'll convene. Matt, I'll be in touch. We'll figure out what looks good for a weekend. Maybe we'll do all of this stuff together at Trifecta.
Okay.
You know, screw it, man. We'll figure something out.
Three Bells presents Steak and Cake Trifecta.
Steak and cake.
Steak
You
and cake.
gotta get stickers made now.
It's gonna happen. It's gonna be our little Ned Rig nerds. It's gonna be good. Little cult-like following is gonna follow us everywhere. They're like steak and cake, yeah.
That's right.
I do have to put an order in for some spinner baits for this fall.
Okay.
I think they're creeping into that moving bait comfort presentation as far as confidence now. Starting to feel pretty good about it.
Well, that's good.
Yeah.
That's a good thing.
Yeah, making a
I'm glad I
difference.
got you drinking the spinnerbait Kool-Aid.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. That's what we got. It's just it's a plethora of Kool-Aid sampling. It's like a tasting, if you will.
That's right.
I love it. I love it.
Truth.
Good stuff, Matt. Thanks so much, dude. We appreciate it.
Thank you guys for having me again. I appreciate it.
You're the
Later,
greatest, man. Have a good one. Have a good night, Lauren. She just said she's off to bed. Thanks, Lauren. We appreciate you. We'll see you soon. Guys, it's the end of the show, but we had talked before in our little pre-production meeting about what we're going to do for our last segment, and we got to talk some Stranger Things stuff here, guys. And I don't mean weird Shaun the Fisherman stories on the water or anything like that. We're talking about the hit Netflix series Stranger Things. It's all my kids talk about these for the last couple of years. And
Yeah.
I mean, I got sucked into it right away with the first season. I was all in. All in. And my kids shortly thereafter got into it, and then it was just it's all they talk about. Now my youngest is infatuated with this latest one. And there's a lot of people right now that are kind of buzzing about Stranger Things Season 4, Parts 1 and 2. I don't think that was necessary, personally. Splitting them up. I would rather fuck a cactus than have to listen to Sean chewing again.
Thanks, Ellie. It's baseballs. God damn it! I gotta eat them. They're fucking. And I did it off air.
Baseballs.
That's what you patrons get when you pay for me chewing.
The little snack cakes.
No, the little it's the white cheddar snowballs. They call them snowballs.
That's
they're
right.
Bunny tails, and then they're baseballs in the summer. It's the same product. They just
Gotcha.
It's relabels them and remarkets them every season. It's great.
No cheesy fingers.
No, I got my little.
You got a cup, right?
Got my little America cup.
America cup.
So
yeah.
let me jump in on that, Bobby, with the Stranger Things.
Yes.
Now that Ellie is banging a cactus, when I think I got in on season 2, all right, I missed season 1. I got in on season 2, and I tend to do that. I always let season 1 of anything go by. Umbrella Academy is. I have to watch season 3 of that. I think we started on season. I think somebody was watching season 2 in my house, and I jumped in on that. Rewatched everything, and with Stranger Things, the authenticity that the Duffer Brothers put into the timepiece,
Oh, it's
period
amazing.
piece,
Yeah.
is so like for you and I who grew up, we were kids at that time. So the Stranger Things kids in the story are probably 5 years older than us.
Yeah.
But we remember those things from the early 80s. Like, can I tell you what I had my brother do? He's got a couple of coworkers that are like antiquers.
Oh,
And
okay.
you know what I have them looking for me for because of Stranger Things?
What's that?
We had a set
light
growing
bright?
up. No, you can buy those
okay.
at Target. They came out with Stranger Thing light brights for that. No, I'm looking for authentic 80s shit. Did you ever have a set, or did your parents ever have a set when we were kids of Georgian honeycomb drinking glasses? Do you know what those are? They look like chalices, all right?
Yeah.
But where the stem and the rest of the cup meet, even though the whole thing you can put your liquid in the stem, your drinking liquid. I mean, you can put any liquid you want in there, I guess.
Your liquid.
Your liquid.
You can secrete whatever liquids you want into that drinking stem. It's fine.
Ellie could poop in it if she wanted. It doesn't matter.
She could, indeed.
So Georgian honeycomb glasses we had a set of those, and I have my brother's coworkers on the lookout for them at their various antiquing ventures, and I gave them a price I would be willing to pay, and I'm like, if you can find them, great. If not, whatever. But it was that level of detail, and I understand, and I may be getting the details on this incorrect, wrong, whatever, but for one of the scenes, or one of the houses that they used was actually a house that was, I guess, foreclosed on or whatever in the 80s in New Mexico, and it just remained that way until they found it. So it was literally the way it was in 1985 or whatever. So yeah, I've got them looking for those. It was a nice nostalgia thing. I'm like, man, I used to love drinking out of those glasses.
serve.
They were great.
Yeah.
And they're on the lookout for me, but I don't want the new ones that are made. I want them from the 80s.
You want the authentic, real. Yep. Yeah. That makes sense.
Yep. So they've done
That's
a really,
awesome.
really good job at. I mean, they're not perfect, and I don't expect them to be. Just especially season one. Season one was so dead on for 1983.
Dead
and
on, nuts.
I remember some of those things. You know what I mean? So like the big drink dispensers that had the fucking lid on top, like the big pitchers.
Oh yeah,
those. Everybody had those. They were
those
great.
were amazing. You used to mix like Kool-Aid and
Kool-Aid.
Crystal
That's how you made
Light.
your Kool-Aid.
That's how you did it.
So so the authenticity that they've put forth in that show has been phenomenal. And then I loved season one. I loved season two. I thought season three was a bit off, and I know why I think that now. I don't like their treatment of Hopper in season three.
Oh yeah, we talked about this.
Yeah, everything else is fine. The story progresses. Everything's good. I did not like their treatment of Hopper's character in season three. I thought it was out of character, and it
like the bumbling dad.
Yeah, it was some injected humor that didn't need to be there, I think.
Yeah.
For a very serious Vietnam vet character that was a badass. And then they stripped it away for season 4, and he was back and he was pissed. Now, with season 4, they broke it up into two, what do they call them, volumes or chapters?
two different volumes.
Yeah, so they did, I think it was it 6 or 7 episodes, and then the final 2? And the last one was 2.5 hours long.
Oh yeah,
it was fucking nuts. Now before we left for vacation, we saw all of volume 1, and volume 2 was to be released. Last Friday?
Yeah, it was
Friday the 1st. It was Friday the 1st.
Yep.
So, when I got back from that charter trip, one of my wife's nieces was upstairs where I was to be making tacos, and she had that on. And I'm like, get out of here. I don't want to know a goddamn thing.
Yeah,
Chased her out of there. Like, turn it off, get out. So I didn't see anything. I watched it when I got home.
Yep.
All right.
Yeah.
Now, my youngest son, who's been watching with my wife and myself, watching Stranger Things, had said to me, hey, there's a scene in the trailer, which I saw, where one of the characters is in the alternate universe known as the Upside Down.
Yep.
On a roof, shredding a guitar because he's a metalhead. This is 1986.
Yeah.
And my son had said, hey, I saw a fan theory online that he was playing Master of Puppets for Metallica. And I said, well, that's fitting because it's 1986 in that season. Like, that makes a lot of sense. Okay, talk to me. And he goes, well, that's all I saw. So we waited, and that scene came up. Now, honestly, I think season 4 is just as good as season 2. I don't know. I don't know if anything's as good as season 1, but they're both
hard to-
season 2 and 4 are definitely better than season 3. It was great.
Yeah.
Another great season. I have no complaints about it. But that scene came up in the final episode, and it was definitely some fan service for metalheads, obviously.
Oh, for sure.
But I don't think them doing that took away from the story, which is where you get
No, not at all.
really, where directors and writers have to be careful with throwing something in that may or may not work with the tale that's being told. And I thought it worked just fine. It had a slight goof to it, you know what I mean, with Dustin running around and cheering it the whole time. But like, I'm good with it. And then it worked with the story. And then there's all the backstory that came out with Robert Trujillo's kid from Metallica, lending his talents to that. And I don't know. I just thought it was nice. It was a nice little service to Metalhead. And then you had told me before we started recording about your daughter now.
Yeah.
So hit it.
She was, she had told me, I was on the phone with one of my friends, and she goes, I just kind of wanted to like annoy her a little bit. So she's like, all of her friends are obsessed with this last season of Stranger Things. She is obsessed. I'm not going to give away any like specifics or anything, but like there's some characters that go through some shit, and my kids are like sobbing their eyes out. Like they're really, really into this. And the guy, Eddie, who is playing the guitar in that scene there, has become one of my daughter's favorite characters. Absolutely become one of her favorite characters.
Deservedly so.
Yeah. And it's wild. She has been getting into the fan content that's out there. So like for a while there was talk like, oh, season 4 is it, that's the last one. And I'm like, in my mind, I'm like, that'd be great, because that's how it should go out. You know what I mean? Like, get it done, 4 seasons, boom. That's obviously not the situation, you know?
Oh, I knew beforehand that there was going to be a season 5, and they were calling it quits after that.
Yeah, there's some stuff, some rumblings on the internet at one point or another that season 4 was it, and they were getting out of it. And I'm like, yeah, because you don't want to see it go out on a note like
The Office.
Season 3 or The Office. Yes, exactly, where they're just like, oh shit, we've beaten it to death. We got to do something, you know. You want to see it go out in a blaze of glory, and I think that's ideally what you're looking at. But so she tells me this story. She's like, so I put on, she has in her room a little Amazon Echo, right, to listen to music and shit like that. And she goes, I put on my Alexa. She goes, I had to play Master of Puppets. I was like, oh, you like that song? She goes, yeah. She's like, it's pretty good. She's like, oh, I forget the actor's name that plays Eddie, but she's like, I guess in the virtual timeline of where like the character Eddie would have had to learn how to play that song based on the date it was released. Yeah, it was weeks.
Yeah, Eddie learned Master of Puppets in 2 weeks without the internet or guitar tabs.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly.
That,
yeah. So I get it. I'm like, that's awesome. But she's like, and I told her, I said, this is Metallica's best album. Like, it's the greatest Metallica album ever. You should listen to it sometime. So I'm interested to see if she's like, Dad, Battery's fucking awesome. Like,
dude, Battery kicks ass.
The whole album from beginning to end is amazing.
It's Cliff.
It always has been.
Cliff Burton's swan song, and when we were growing up, I never heard of Metallica until 1988. I mean, I heard of them, but I never listened to them. You know what I mean? And then when Justice came out, because they were always taboo, like that the shit in Stranger Things with the Satanism was real. People
people
freaked
thought
out by
that way in the early
80s.
80s. Yeah, 100% they did.
Yeah, and then I remember, and I think I told this story at one point or another on one of our shows, that when I had my 11th birthday, one of my cousins who was very into classic rock gave me 2 tapes. Tapes, people, cassettes. Yep. That was 1988. Cause CDs were like $40 a piece back then, if not more. So they weren't, LP albums were still kicking pretty well.
Yeah, exactly.
And CDs drilled tapes and tapes that killed tapes, and then albums still survived in the underground because of their fidelity. But I remember he gave me the new Def Leppard album. So it was
it would have been probably been Hysteria.
Hysteria. So he gave me Def Leppard, Hysteria, and Eric Clapton's Best of timepieces. And I remember I had to go back to him. I'm like, do you have the receipt to the record store? And he's like, why? I go, I don't like Eric Clapton. And I still don't. I'm not a Clapton fan. I mean, Cream's great, but I just not my gig, right?
Sure.
So I went back to that record store with my new, with my $11 credit or whatever the hell it was, $10 credit. And I remember walking in and just looking up at the giant fucking statue of Lady Justice being torn down. It says Metallica, the new LP, or the new LP, 9 songs. I'm like, what the fuck is this? So I got And Justice for All, and that was my first taste of Metallica. And I remember going home to my Panasonic boombox and popping that thing in and just waiting, and then hearing the fucking, the harmonics or whatever the fuck it is coming in for Blackened, and going, what is this? And then Blackened punched me to another universe, and I never looked back. And still to this day, I keep going to Metallica shows, not because I love Metallica shows. I keep going hoping they'll play Blackened. I've seen them 8 times, and it's worth every amount of money just if they play Blackened once.
Yeah.
They do it. They mix it in every now and again, but I've never seen them play Blackened. Because it's simple. Like, I understand there's issues with the way that album was produced. I get it. I still think the guitar sound on that album is one of my favorite sounds of all time, but when I pressed play for that was my first venture into extreme music, and I was like, whoa, what the fuck is this?
Yeah, and that was one hell of an album.
But and then you listen to Master of Puppets, and it's just so superior.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? It's a perfect album. And in that 1986, when you think of perfect, now I always kind of raise an eyebrow on this. And the metal historians, I read a lot of books on metal, which is weird, but I do it. I like tracing genres and what band did this and when and who influenced this. It's kind of neat. I just like doing it. And the year 1986 is kind of considered the greatest year in thrash metal because Slayer put out Rain and Blood, which inspired 5 billion extreme genres.
Oh, yeah.
Metallica put out Master of Puppets, which really is the most digestible and best thrash metal album.
Mm-hmm.
It's perfect. It's a perfect thrash metal album. It's perfect. And then what gets lumped in there, and I kind of don't like this, is Megadeth's Peace Cells, which is it's a great album. It's a great, I know Megadeth always gets lumped in with that technical thrash stuff because Dave is such a great guitar player, but it's not even the best Megadeth album. I mean, Rust in Peace pulverizes that, and that came out 3 years later, 2 or 3 years later.
Yeah.
So I don't agree with that, but I mean, really, Slayer. When you look at 1986, Slayer put out the album that scared the fuck out of people.
Oh yeah. And defined what was the road that would be extreme metal music.
Yeah, it made people nauseous.
Yep.
Metallica scared people, but did it in the perfect way. I mean, that's a perfect album. It's fucking phenomenal. It's really the dark side of the moon of thrash.
Yeah,
if not all of metal.
Yeah,
So, yeah, I'm glad I'm glad they put that in there. I'm glad Metallica had a part in doing it. I guess Robert Trujillo's kid was involved in the extra guitar tracks. It was great. It was great. Awesome. It was a nice little nod to metal. Did you see, by the way, when they were looking for music to play in Eddie's room, did you see what they're like? Don't you have any real music? And he held up a tape and he said, "This is real music." Did you see what the tape was?
No, I don't think I noticed.
And I saw this. This wasn't me looking online. It's one of my favorite, this was proto metal stuff. I actually got that album twice.
Yep.
Once from my father, who said I'm not listening to this anymore, and one from my uncle who said the same thing. They just weren't into it.
Yep.
Iron Maiden's Peace of Mind.
Oh, dude, Maiden is so good.
Maiden, that's almost a perfect album, and then they put out Power Slave next, which is a perfect album. Yeah. I mean,
at the time though, when you look at it, you're like, yeah, of course. That's so funny. I didn't even notice that.
Yeah, he held up that tape, and I'm like, oh, he's fucking. I said to my wife, I'm like, he's got peace of mind, and she's looking at me like I got fucking dicks hanging out of my ears. But I'm like, never mind.
Like, what the hell's that?
But yeah, I mean, I was completely satisfied with that show. What?
I said, you're so stupid.
I am. But I thought it ended great, man. That was a really great show. One more season in rock and roll, and now I got to jump on Umbrella Academy. I got to finish watching Ms. Marvel.
Can we
All sorts of
just
shit,
talk
dude.
for a second about Will's hair?
Yeah, it was pretty bowl cuttish. I had a haircut like that in
I
the
mean,
early 80s too.
yeah, that's the thing. Like, so my Holly is so upset about like his hair. Like that haircut is terrible, and I keep trying to remind her, this is how it was back then. Like,
yeah, we all had that hair.
We all had. I mean, when I had hair, it was terrible. You know what I mean?
Well, we all had that fucking bowl cut.
It
We
was
all did.
terrible.
Our parents put a bowl on our head and fucking cut our hair around it. It was ridiculous.
Yeah.
That 80s hair is so, I don't know. It's just like a pale imitation of the 70s.
It really is.
Before the mid 80s, and then everyone started spiking their hair and fucking doing weird shit with it, poofing it up with fucking God knows what else.
All the girls that were our age in school had the Great Wall of China for their bangs sticking straight up. Crazy.
Yep.
Like it was like an alpine ski jump in the Olympics.
Somewhere between like 1984 and 1986, hair went from being like matted down to straight the fuck up. It just went 180 degrees.
Should we organize this winter like a Jigs and Bigs 80s party social? I'll just put together like a really big playlist of 80s music. We'll have people get together. We'll do some giveaways and some contests. We'll tell people to dress up like in 80s style clothes and shit like that. We'll see what happens, what kind of fucking shit show it turns out.
Oh my God. We could. Let's put it.
Crimped.
Put it in the idea box. Yeah, Ellie's crimped. Put it in the idea box. We'll leave it now. One of the things that came out of Stranger Things 4 that made you laugh when I told you the entire origin of it was my latest buzzer and fucking team name for trivia, which there's a stoner in Stranger Things 4. No spoiler here. Stoner. His name is Argyle. And outside of the show, in my life, in my past history, you know, there were references to tacos as, you know, cannabis products. And,
really? Okay.
And we got my team name is the Tacos of Argyle, meaning Argyle's weed. And we got an excellent. Do you have the buzzer up by any chance?
I can get it for you.
Why don't you grab that buzzer real quick? And then, so I went ahead and played this one day, and you said, "Oh my God, I've been waiting for somebody to pick that buzzer for months." You had sitting there waiting.
Here it is.
Tacos and sushi, and antidepressants.
You're so stupid. If you can't have fun, people, don't do it. You know what I mean? You know what I'm saying?
It's true. Oh God.
That's all I got. There's our Stranger Things 4 review.
I love
fucking
it.
Great.
I love it. So yeah, if you haven't watched it, I recommend it. It's definitely worth it. And my daughter's in the process of this whole like, I don't even know if I want to watch season 5. Oh my God. I was like, well, you have like a year and a half before you have to worry about it. So, you know, you take your time and really mull it over, you know. It's just
Have you guys watched Umbrella Academy in your house?
We haven't touched it.
You should probably get in on that because it's a superhero story of what if everything goes wrong at once. It's fucking nuts.
Oh, really?
It's really good, yeah. I mean,
I'll check it out.
There's obviously a ton of because of the time period with Stranger Things, there's a ton of obvious. I mean, there's a million right out in front obvious Lord of the Rings references because that was gaining a foothold again. That was getting popular in the 80s with the Dungeons and Dragons stuff. But there's a couple of things that roll through Stranger Things that if you're not super nerd, you might not pick up. But like all the Dark Phoenix stuff from the X-Men story in the 80s, there's a ton of references in that. Tons.
Really? Okay.
Yeah, it's some of it's subtle, some of it's not, but I mean, it's a good take on it. And then that Umbrella Academy is, you know, an X-Men type thing where fucking everything goes wrong. It is fucking, it's brutal, but it's really great to watch.
Really? All right, I'll check it out.
Yeah, and they just started season 3, and they have fucked everything up so bad. They seriously, it's awesome. So I can't wait to see season 3 of that. But check it out. That's all we got. There's your pop culture corner from fucking Jigs and Bigs because no one gives a shit. No one's even listening at this point except for Ellie and Fish and the Sticks, and they're probably high.
I guarantee it. I guarantee it.
Where's Roadkill Nick? He should be high listening to this shit.
Huh?
Where's Roadkill Nick? We haven't heard from him in a while.
We haven't heard from Roadkill Nick in forever, but I know he's still around because he keeps liking the Jigs and Big stories. Which I'm all about.
And he sent me a message. Did I tell you this?
No.
I had that when I was out on the boat with Heidi and Billy in North Carolina.
Yep.
We took some pictures afterwards. Everyone's smiling and waving or doing whatever, and I had a tank top on.
Mm-hmm.
And I have a fucking half sleeve on my right arm, and I'm not gonna say what it is, but his question was, "Oh my God, do you have a giant tattoo of Kermit the Frog smoking a joint on your arm?" And I said, "No," and I just left it at that. So if anybody's asking, no, I don't have a tattoo of Kermit the Frog smoking a joint on my right arm, but my left arm is untattooed. Maybe I'll just keep that on the back burner.
It's funny though. I saw that picture and I was like, from that angle, it looks kind of like Kermit the Frog smoking a joint.
That would be funny and appropriate, but no, it is not.
Yeah,
Kermit
that's awesome. I love that.
Left arm. I got a blank canvas on my left arm. Holy shit.
I don't know what's going on here in the comments. Ellie says, booty fall to arrive. Call. Well, fall's more fitting.
Why are we making booty calls?
Oh, okay. I see. No. I'm
Fish of the Sticks confirms. I'm high and my wife's doing yoga. Excellent.
Dude, that's two great things that go great together. You know? That's what I'm saying.
Oh, my God.
Oh, goodness. Guys, we're going to go ahead and wrap this sucker up. Get out there and catch some fish, man. We have plans for really fantastic stuff coming up in the future. Thanks to everybody who filled out that survey. I'm going to continue posting that link. So if you didn't happen to weigh in on it this time, we want to see what's happening here. We want to kind of know what buttons are getting pushed and, what we want to trim the fat if we can, or if we feel it's necessary. So it's always better to know. Anyway, that stuff's coming up for you guys. We have a whole bunch of stuff happening this summer. Remember that there has been a change to the trifecta. It is no longer the tournament. There is an event. If you have tickets, you've still got, lunch is paid for, and there is an event happening. Go and catch some fish. It's going to be a whole lot of fun, and I think we're going to have a great opportunity to network and connect with some really good folks. So I'm looking forward to it.
Are you still coming down there?
I'm toying with it. I really am. I actually was with Gravy. I thought it was this weekend coming up. But then I was like, no, that's right, because this is the Connecticut River. I'm like, okay, so that's going to be later this month. I was like, all right, so that could still happen. We'll see how it works out, but let's go ahead and wrap this sucker up, guys. Have yourselves a good one. Get out there, catch some fish. The better yet, take somebody fishing for the first time. Do yourself a favor and introduce somebody to this amazing sport. Trust me, it could change their life or potentially ruin it financially. Whatever happens. Just, bring them to the party. With all that said, guys, we appreciate you. And as we always say here at the show,
tits and ass, smoke some grass.
Just.
Wees niet was niet meer in de galaxy survival is dat first so wie we nimmer dit is maar I am no is dat ja wees hier de rest maar I about back off for us I made that fun in de galaxy survival is dat maar first so wie we met ze is dat maar